morning, everyone. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. At this time, if we could please stand for a moment of silence. We'd like to remember the victims and the families of the shooting that occurred over the weekend. There really are no words. We have this senseless violence in this world. This incident here in our community, we can't continue like this. We have to realize that in the end, it's being violent towards one another, whether with a gun, whether it's politically, whether it's whatever in our daily lives. We need to search for peace, find peace, living together in harmony, because at the end, it's just not worth it. The hatred, the anger, everything. Thank you very much. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Carlson. Here. Kurtak. Here. Clendenin. Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Miranda. Here. And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
All right, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes from October 19, 2023, which is the workshop,
Second.
and the October 26th evening agenda? We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilwoman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're going to do some housekeeping here. There's quite a few items, so I'm going to go down the list before we approve the agenda. Item number 1, Chief Bennett or the Chief of Police, I don't know whom, either one is going to discuss the incident in Ybor City before public comment and bring us up to speed there. I have a memo from Councilmember Clendenin's office that he will be unable to attend today's meeting due to a personal matter. We'll receive and file that memo. We're going to take public...
I think we should do the police officer of the month before we do the update.
I'm not done with the...
Okay.
I have a really long list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Chief Bennett is going to discuss before public comment, not before...
Not before, okay.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take public comment prior to item number 3, which is the ARC appointment, item number 33, Director of Purchasing, and item number 34, which is Director of the Water Department. We'll have public comment specifically for those if anybody wishes to speak on those. Item number 7, we're going to take up during staff reports. All right. We have a memo requesting that item number 60 be heard immediately following public comment, general public comment. Item number 4, there is a request to continue that item until January 11th, 2024. May I have a memo to that, a motion to that effect? We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. Item number 5, there is a request to continue that to December 7th, 2023. May I have a motion to continue 5? Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. All right. We have a memo from Councilwoman Hurtak requesting that items number 26 be pulled for discussion and heard with item number 74. We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak, second from Councilmember Carlson. All in favor? Aye. All right. We have a memo requesting that items number 61 and 70 be heard together. Any objection to that? All right. We're going to hear items 61 and 70 together. Item number 69, there is a request to continue this item to January 25th.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm
we
sorry.
have, that's for a 10 o'clock public hearing, so we can't, right, we have to wait until 10 o'clock. But item 69 is going to be continued.
Or it's a request.
There's a request to continue that to January 25th. If you're here for 69, just know that there is a request to continue. Item number 80. Item number 80 is there's a request to continue item to December 7th. May I have a motion? That's for under staff reports. Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from? Second from? Councilmember Vieira, all in favor? Aye. We also have a memo requesting that item number 81 be continued to item to December 7th. May I have a motion? We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilmember Miranda, all in favor? Aye. All right, and then finally, before I approve the agenda, we're gonna go over staff reports.
Mr. Chair?
yes.
Could I ask that, I recommend that, and I apologize, I just read the long version of this morning, but I recommend that item number 30 be continued for a month so that we can further study the issue.
Second.
Do you want December 7th?
Yes, please.
Wait, let me look at and see what it is.
Yeah, the insurance.
Okay, so item number 30, Councilmember Miranda, would you mind continuing that to December 7th? All right, we're going to continue item number 30 to December 7th. Motion from Councilmember Miranda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go through the staff reports. Is there an administration update? Chief Bennett?
Just the briefing.
Okay, so we will get rid of that, or we will deal with that. Item number 72, $63 million contract. All right, we're going to have people present for 72. Item number 73, would you like somebody present? Please. Yes, sir. Item number 74, yes. All right, item number 75.
Yes, please.
We're going to have people present for 74, 75, 76?
Yes.
Yes, we will have somebody present. Item number 77?
Yes.
All right. Item number 78? Councilman Vieira?
Sure.
Okay, we'll have somebody present for that. Item number 79?
Yes.
All right. That's it. Okay, at this time, may I have a motion to accept, to approve the agenda, the addendum? We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. All right. Item number 1.
Item number 1.
Item 1 or item 1?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Yeah, do you want to, let us get through the ceremonial stuff and then, because it's 3 items? Yeah, let's do that. So, you want to start with TPD first, item number 2, and then go to item number 1? All right, let's do item number 2, Police Officer of the Month. Okay, strike that. Revenue and Finance, item number 1. Yes, I know, and I know. Everything is significant.
No, I mean personal.
We are equal.
Sir. Hey, come
It's
on
an
down.
awesome department.
Look at all these shiny faces.
Who's left at the office?
I hope they locked the safe.
Wow, I think I'm looking at the Supreme Court. But thank you all for being here, and you know, this department is Revenue Finance, year after year after year. They have received this award from others, and we think it's habitual, we think it's automatic, and with that in mind, if I'd like to ask Mr. O'Hara to explain how this process goes and how you just don't get it every year. If I can, Mr. O'Hara, would you please explain to the general public what it's all about?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Council.
Yep.
It is indeed a privilege and pleasure to be up here accepting this award with this world-class crack team. As Councilman Miranda said, very similar to the credit rating agency reviews that we often discuss, the Government Finance Officers Association does not just give this award and go on their merry way. There's continuous surveillance and due diligence as to whether we continue to meet the requirements associated with this award, and the requirements change, just like the Governmental Accounting Standards Board and the rating agency criteria. This team has to keep pace with the cutting-edge financial management practices, whether they're best practices mandated by the state, mandated by the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a very special award, and year after year, this team you're looking at gets it. It is my privilege, again, to represent them and to work with Mike Perry and this world-class team. Come on up here, Mike, if you would, for just a moment. These are your fortune tellers, you know, those credit ratings that we always talk about, and we're very, very proud of them. Of course, it's a citywide effort, council, mayor, everybody within the city, but this team is at the heart of that, whether it's day-to-day review of budget and financial information or looking ahead decades and decades into debt management. It comes down to this team and this leader right here, Mike Perry. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, team, for everything you do. You're wonderful people, class people. You take care of our customers, which are the departments we support. And again, I want to thank you, each and every one of you.
And I'd like to present Adam. Adam has been with the department just
10 minutes.
a minute and a half. You're on council. That's about a 3-hour meeting on the first item. But anyway, Adam, it's my pleasure and honor to give you this presentation on behalf of Tampa City Council, all of them, and the staff that works with you all. It looks like 17 or 18 if I can still count. But there's where we're at, and it's an honor to be part of the city, for us anyway, and I'm sure you'll be part of that. You've already been here a few months or so, and you're already receiving the award.
You've done incredible work.
So you're starting at the bottom and you're going to the top. Only in America. But it's an honor in recognition of the Finance and Revenue Budgeting Office Award, Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022. This award is presented by the Government Finance Officers Association for the current fiscal year for the highest form of recognition in government budgeting. And it goes on and on and on. So on behalf of all 7 council members, and they've all signed it, you can read their names. Before, you couldn't read the names. Now, so you're getting one of the first ones that you can read the council's name. It's my honor to present to you and the Revenue and Finance, on behalf of all the citizens in the city of Tampa, this award for the Revenue and Finance Budget Office.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, council.
Any questions, council members? Anyone?
All right, Councilman Carlson.
No, just as you all turn around. Thank you all for coming so we can all see who you are. Thanks so much for all you do, especially during the budgeting process. I know a lot of you were working long hours to answer our questions, so thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Councilman Kurtak.
Yeah, same. I really appreciate, I am learning more and more about the budget, and it's really impressive. You all do a ton of work, but thank you especially for keeping our ratings, working hard on that. You all are an amazing team, and I just want to say thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you even more this year as I learn even more about the budget.
Thank you. Councilwoman Henderson.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Chair. Since I've been in office, I believe you've come before us several times, 3, 4, 5 times, being awarded for your outstanding work as a department. I recognize that. Of course, I love listening to you all and what you have to say regarding our budget. And this is just another indication that we are going in the right direction. We have the right staff that we should listen to because you all are awarded for the work that you have done, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yep, thank you guys for all your work, and thank you, Councilman Miranda, for bringing this forward. And we always appreciate all of your work and insight and all the hard work that you all do. There's not a lot of public recognition in what you do, except for today, but we just appreciate all the hard work you all do, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And congratulations, Mr. O'Hara back there. I see you. And,
Thank you, sir.
and Mike Perry, you're both wonderful. You work very, very hard. I appreciate, again, like I mentioned today, I kept saying professionalism. The professionalism of this department, you have one of the most difficult departments. I've never been a math person, and I've never been good at it. So what you do, you're brilliant, all of you. It's a $2 billion budget, close to it. I know next year, maybe a little bit bigger. But, you know, this award speaks for itself. You work tirelessly. I mean, I can't even imagine. So thank you, well-deserved. Keep up the great work. You make us proud. We're proud of you. So congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. All right, we'll wait a moment. Councilman Vieira. We're going to do 3, 33, and 34, and then we'll go into the chief will talk. All right, Councilman Vieira, you're here to present the Police Officer of the Month.
Council, it's my great pleasure here today to introduce our Tampa Police Department Officer of the Month, Nicole Alvarado, who's here. And like I always say, we always do the Police Officer of the Month as well as the Firefighter of the Quarter because this exemplifies the values of the city of Tampa, a city that I believe supports our first responders, including the hard work that our police officers do and the work that their families do in supporting them behind the scenes. So we will let our remarkable Chief Burkaw come forward and talk about this nice individual. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Council. We always talk about TPD hiring the best and the brightest, and we have a great example today to present to you with Officer Nicole Alvarado. She's only been with the department just a little over 3 years, but she's doing some amazing things. So in just a short time, she's proven to be vital to the department's fight against fentanyl and other deadly narcotics that clearly have not just plagued our community, but the entire nation. Currently, she's assigned to one of the department's street anti-crime squad. She's cultivated a number of strong relationships with our community that have led to many successful narcotic operations. Her relationships with the community and knowledge also played pivotal in a role that led to the arrest of a homicide suspect back in August of this year. Upon her arrival at the scene of a suspect who had been fatally shot, she was able to assist homicide detectives positively identifying the suspect based on his vehicle. Throughout the course of the investigation and due to her familiarization with District 2, she was able to connect the vehicle to a suspect whom she had had numerous interactions from previous narcotic operations. Her thorough investigative skills, paired with the extensive knowledge of the community she patrols, led to that successful arrest for first-degree murder. Clearly, this is just one example, but I couldn't tell you off my career how many officers that just have 3 years on that are making cases like this, and this is why her dedication and proactive work is definitely deserving of Officer of the Month. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
So, ma'am, before we let you speak, we have some members of the community who would like to come here and show their appreciation. Go ahead.
Brandon Barclay, Tampa PDA. Officer Alvarado, great job. We appreciate your service.
Good morning, Council. Brian Ford with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good morning, Chief Bennett, Chief Burkaw, and Officer Alvarado. What a story. 3 years in, and I just, we have a little tradition over at One Buck that anybody that goes over and above gets a game ball. And hearing your story, you're definitely going over and above. So, on behalf of the Glazer family and our entire organization, congratulations and thank you for your dedication, your service, and your family's sacrifice. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Morning, Council. Mike MacArthur, Steps Towing Service. Morning, Chief. And congratulations, Officer, on your job well done. It sounds like you're going to have a very, very successful future with TPD. We've got great leadership, and just congratulations on a job well done. So on behalf of Todd Steps and Steps Towing, I'd like to provide you a gift card for a night out and our company limousine, gift card for dinner. Take some time off. You deserve it. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you.
Good morning, Mary Dillon from the Strass Center for Performing Arts. Thank you for your service, officer. On behalf of the Strass Center, we'd like to offer you 2 complimentary tickets to the Broadway show. Enjoy yourself and well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Council. Jill Witecki from Tampa Theater. Clearly, our community is so lucky to have you, and we'd like to give you and your family an annual membership to come see us.
Thank you.
Jennifer Curry from Bill Curry Ford and Jeff Patterson, on behalf of our entire team at Bill Curry Ford, we just want to thank you so much. Thank you for saving so many lives and for everything you do. You have a gift card for here and some goodies in the bag, and thank you so much for everything.
Good morning. I'm Mary Lou Bailey. I'm here on behalf of Zoo Tampa.
And I'm Mark Haney. I'm with Zoo Tampa.
Congratulations and thank you so much on behalf of our whole community, and thank you to everyone who serves. Magnificent work. In recognition, Zoo Tampa, the Board of Zoo Tampa has bought you a membership to the zoo for the year. So please enjoy it in good health and continue to keep all of us safe.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Council. Good morning, Chief. Officer Alvarado. I'm Grace Gonzalez. I'm here on behalf of the Gonsmart family and the 1905 family of restaurants. We're so grateful for your service and dedication and hard work. We'd like to present you with this gift card and invite you to any of our restaurants across the state of Florida. Please enjoy some oyster sangria, and thank you.
Good morning, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
You got a basket?
I'm gonna need one.
Steve Michelini, I'm here on behalf of a couple of different entities that would like to recognize you. They're the gift certificates, you need to take those with you. On behalf of the Chicho Restaurant Group, we're providing you with a gift certificate for your choice of their restaurants for $50. On behalf of the Bella Brava, which is in the Midtown section, we're providing you with a gift certificate for $50. Enjoy yourself over there for lunch or dinner. On behalf of Meat Market in Old Hyde Park Village, a gift certificate for $50. They may give you more, though. On behalf of Yummy House China Bistro, we're providing you with a gift certificate. I'd like to go off script here for a second and acknowledge the men and women of the first responders, Tampa Fire and Tampa Fire Rescue and TPD. And when you have difficult times, we should be turning to God, and God's shield will protect you. His glory will humble you. His power will defend you. His wisdom will enlighten you. The goodness will supply you with what you need. Grace will heal us. Mercy will pardon us. Joy is there to strengthen and the will to go on when failure is at hand. The promise is there to cherish. The Spirit is there to lead us. And God's strength is there to shield you. May God bless you and all of the other members of Tampa Fire Department, Tampa Police Department, and all the other first responders. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, on behalf of a very grateful city of Tampa and Tampa City Council, ma'am, it is our great pleasure and honor to give you and your family this Tampa City Council commendation for all of your hard work and sacrifice, just based upon our appreciation. Madam, here you go. And you can speak if you'd like to.
I'm very fortunate. I've got a great squad, and I've got great supervisors. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you very much.
And now,
So you've been on the force 3 years here,
Yeah, that's just
and you're Police Officer of the Month.
apparently.
I think that says a lot. You know, first, thank you for the sacrifice that you make every time you put that uniform on, and thank you to your family, because it's not easy. Your job is not easy, the stress, the long hours, everything that you do, but you clearly have gone above and beyond, and you go above and beyond, and you're what makes this city proud, what makes this department proud. Jill from Tampa Theater mentioned we're very lucky to have you, and I truly believe we're very lucky to have you, so thanks for being here and being a part of the Tampa family. We appreciate you very much, and this is very well deserved. So, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, what the chairman so well he put together. It's a very difficult job, what you have and what the other 999 police officers have. You have 1/100th of a second to make a decision at times, rightly or wrongly. And unfortunately, you will be judged by that 1/100th of a second, whether you're right or wrong, for the rest of your life. And these are the things that we forget about being a police officer. We say, well, you should have done this, but they were not in your shoes, in your body, and what you saw, you or anyone else, and this police officer, Tampa or any other place in the United States of America. And those are the difficult things. Even more difficult is being a police officer, raising your family, going to events, and carry everything on together. So I've never been a police officer, and I've never received the commendation you've gotten after 30 years. But I appreciate what you've done, because you are the one that understands what the real world is like. We can talk about it. We can make believe we know about it. We understand it when you read it, but in fact, it's in your realm of responsibility and the other 1,000 or so police officers. So congratulations, thank you, and that award to me is like winning the Academy Award. Not for acting, but for performance. So I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Councilwoman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Officer Alvarado. I can tell that you really don't probably care for this public display of affection, but one of the things that is happening right now is your girl power is real, and there are young girls that look like you, that look like me, that are saying, you know what, they may have considered a career because you're standing before us. We have to shine the light on you, so please allow us to love on you today and say congratulations, even though you're modest. I just want to say thank you for what you do. You are young, and I can see the promotions just bing, 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 bing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because of who you are right now. It is setting the trajectory for what you'll be in the future in this police force, and we just appreciate you for it.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Also want to say thank you, and I think it speaks a lot that you, after 3 years, are already on the anti-crime squad. I think that kind of speaks more than anything. That's a lot. That's a huge jump for only being on the force for 3 years. So it's very obvious that you are, good at your job. But I really appreciate. What I heard from all that was the detail-oriented, how you are and how you notice things and how you knew what car it was and you knew, and that just takes paying attention and just being aware of what's around you, and that's your special gift. And so I just want to say I think that's awesome, and I do expect to see more from you. And congratulations, and enjoy all of the gifts and good health. Thank you.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you for using your persistence and creativity and intelligence to solve these crimes. I'm sure there are a lot more that we could thank you for. In today's world, unfortunately, because of what happened a few days ago, we all as a community have to thank you and your squad and your colleagues throughout the police department even more than ever before. I watched all the videos that I could find the other day, and one of them shows that as the crowds were running, and looking to the police for help, 2 police officers walking upright walked right into the line of fire. And that's a great example, I think, of what you all have to deal with every day. And I just want to thank you and your colleagues for your bravery and persistence. I think everybody in Tampa woke up on Sunday morning and said, thank God that we have the brilliant, persistent people in TPD to protect us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
All right, we're just going to wait a moment as folks exit the room. We're going to bring in a couple more people that are waiting. We're going to go to 3, 33, and 34, but we're going to take public comment prior. These are appointments, and then we'll go to the chief of police. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Let's see if they'll let me run out for the picture real quick, so I'll run out for one quick picture.
Yep, no problem. I got all of it. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, I'll make it. We have more people outside that are going to come in. Okay. You're going to take a photo? Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I haven't seen it.
Well,
All right. At this time, we're going to take public comment only on items 3, 33, and 34. These are appointments. After that, we go to general public comment. Are you to speak of 3, 33, at
I know 33 and 34 on the two appointments. Let me put my glasses on.
If you could just announce, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
3
what the numbers
is,
are so that the people know.
Architecture Review Commission, but I'm not gonna speak on that. My mom from Ms. Carol Post getting that. Joe Robinson, 2338 Palmetto Street, Tampa, Florida. Here to speak about the two appointments, the purchasing director and Mr. Jones, is it Roger Jones, on number 33 for Water Department, having just got a just haven't got a $1,500 water bill yesterday. And I don't know how that happened if they read the meter every month, but it is what it is. I'd probably get a reduction. I'm here to say we've been trying to get a purchasing director to replace Mr. Spearman for going on 2 or 3 years. And I like the choice of this lady. I've read her bio. I don't know how to pronounce her name, Fagarade, but she's in-house, was the manager, and she knows the business, so she's been trained and been under Mr. Spearman. And we need to get that person locked in. We got contracts, we got EBO issues need to be resolved with contracts. She knows that. And so we need to get them and purchasing going with the EBO department with Gregory Hart. We got a lot of money being spent, Mr. Carson. And so we need to make sure that this money is tracked, this money is spent, and people get paid on time. Took me a year to get a simple travel reimbursement paid. So I appreciate that. On the other side, water department. We got tipping going on out there. We got the 6 going on. We needed somebody to come in and run the water department and get this over with this vacancy we had. Decisions have to be made on, do we go forward with this design? Do we go forward with this replacement? Out at tipping, millions and hundreds of millions of dollars got to be determined on what need to be done. And Charlie, water coming short, man. We look running out of water. Just talking about moratoriums up in Pasco County with this water. So we don't need that. We need this man, Mr. Jones. He's a professional engineer like myself. He's been in that department for a long time. He's overqualified for the job. He's internal, so he's not somebody that doesn't know, does come here with training wheels. He already knows what he needs to do. So I'm here to say that I support that, and I support that the city move forward with getting that filled. Those are 2 crucial pillars that have been floating around, hanging around, and not necessarily getting done what we need to get done. So I'm here to say I support those 2 staffers, those 2 people, and I ask that you go ahead and approve those appointments so we can get on with the real business of the city. And thank you very much, Mr. Monisco.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Next speaker. Yes, ma'am. Please state your
Good morning,
name.
Stephanie Pointer. If Chief Burkall retired tomorrow and he wanted to come back as a beat cop, would that be okay? I'm just asking. I have some serious reservations about Ms. Post becoming part of the ARC. Ms. Post used to lead our economic development department. And for her to come back and sit on that ARC, I have some issues with. And here's some very specific reasons why. Number one of the things that I'm most proud of as the president of THAN is the fact that we got the Good Neighbor Notice revised. She tried to kill that. On 2/24/22, she tried her damnedest to kill it for no good reason other than that she didn't want it. On multiple occasions, I sat in meetings with her describing to me what her job was. In one meeting, she even wanted to describe to me how city council works. Me! Ms. Post doesn't care about anybody's opinions but her own. I'm sorry, this is reality. This has been me dealing with her, us having meetings with her, where she stonewalled again and again and again to the neighborhoods. I called the neighborhood leaders where she lives. They don't know who she is. They have no clue who she is. If she's involved in her neighborhood and she wants to represent neighborhoods, and I'm sorry, but I saw in her personal philosophies while she was working here that she didn't give 2 flips about our neighborhoods. And we need folks who are going to be neutral. She's not neutral. She doesn't belong on the ARC. We need neighborhood leaders. We need other folks who are going to do a good job and move forward. She's a smart lady. She's a very smart lady. but she doesn't give a flip what anybody else has got to say. And some of you have never had to deal with her. I deal with hundreds and hundreds of people all the time. I've never sat in a meeting with somebody who was so disrespectful to the people who were in the meeting because she never wanted to listen. She doesn't have time to listen to anybody else because she already knows. Please take that into consideration. I didn't show up for the meetings last week, and I think it's great that we're hiring internally for these new folks. But just remember, there are some people who belong on these boards and some people who don't, and Ms. Post is not one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker? Yes, sir? Yeah. Is this
Good morning.
about
Good morning, Andy Joe.
33 or 34?
Good morning, Carol Post.
Okay.
Good morning, Andy Joe Scaglione. I strongly support Carol Post's appointment to the ARC. I've known her, Carol, professionally for several years, and her experience and knowledge and commitment to public service make her an ideal candidate. I happen to be on the other end with my friend Stephanie on this one, but that's okay, we'll agree to disagree on it. She has always put the needs of the city of Tampa first when making decisions. She would be an excellent member of the ARC. When I take it very, very, when I put my reputation on line for somebody, and I'm willing to do it for her. I served with her on the Blue Ribbon Permit Committee, and I saw the way her actions, she was excellent. So I had firsthand experience with her and also on other issues. Again, this is not a political decision. This is a hiring decision, and that's what we need to do more of. Less political decisions and make good hiring decisions on competent people. Thank you very much, okay?
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment on items 3, 33, or 34? Do we have anybody registered? No? All right. We have our city clerk. We will begin with item number 3. This is the appointment to the Architectural Review Commission. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Good morning, Council. Shirley Foxedo, City Clerk. I would like to present Carol Wallace Post, who's expressed an interest in being appointed as a public policy member to the Architectural Review Board. Ms. Post.
Thank you.
Good morning. Please state your name.
Hi, good morning. I'm Carol Post. Nice to see members of the council, some that I have not had an opportunity to work with yet. I appreciate being considered for membership on the Architectural Review Commission. I have a couple of brief prepared remarks. I'm currently a vice president at the University of South Florida. I oversee university operations there. I did have the privilege to serve the city of Tampa from 2020 to 2022. It was a very pivotal time during the COVID shutdowns. I think it is important to note, though, that the serving on this commission and as part of the ARC would be in a very different capacity in terms of comparison to my role as Administrator for Economic Development. I would look forward to an opportunity to serve in this longtime vacant seat. I'm a native of Florida. I was born and raised in the Tampa Bay area, and I have been a lifelong public servant. The details of my background are set forth in my application materials. What I wanted to bring your attention to this morning is just 3 key points. First is experience and qualifications. I have more than 25 years experience in land use, first as an attorney, and the past 20 years in various leadership roles in local government and higher ed in Florida and in New York City. My local government experience has primarily been driven by balancing the natural tension between individual and developer rights and desires with enforcing the codes and regulations meant to protect neighborhoods and communities. This is very much exemplified by the ARC, where decisions must be guided by compliance with national and local codes and preservation requirements. I am committed to fulfill that charge to preserve Tampa's rich history and the unique culture of its historic neighborhoods, and to always do so with respect, patience, courtesy, and professionalism for all parties involved, which I do believe I did well during my time with the City of Tampa. The second tenet is dedication and commitment. This seat has been vacant for more than 2 years. I think that might not be surprising since these volunteer roles can be very demanding of time and presence, both to preside over long-standing meetings as well as to prepare sufficiently to make informed decisions. I am prepared to be a reliable and dependable representative, to be accessible, reachable, and engaged. If I may
You still
continue.
have 30 seconds.
The last tenet is perspective. I have lived in the Hyde Park Historic District for the past 7 years. I own a contributing structure. It was built in 1907. I'm keenly aware of the added burdens and obligations related to even the simplest improvements. I abide by these strict rules every day, and I'm deeply passionate to preserve the unique nature of these districts. And finally, in addition, my land use and development background, I believe, would complement the construction, design, and architecture experts that are already on the commission. They have each brought great perspective. For these reasons, I would ask for your consideration, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we've heard two differing opinions from two people that I respect tremendously. Both are very, very involved in this community. They know how the city works. From their own experience, I mean, they know what they're talking about. I knew you in a professional capacity here in the city of Tampa. I always respected you. You were always very responsive. We had several meetings, very professional. And I think, your resume speaks for itself. You're very qualified. The work that you've done from here and not here, out of town, and the institutional knowledge that you have. I know this is a volunteer board. I know that the position has been open for 2 years. Before I got elected, I was on the Code Enforcement and Public Nuisance Abatement Board for 3 years or so. And some meetings are easy, some are hard. We see a lot of growth in Tampa, a lot of new construction. The ARC plays a significant role in that because there are cases that may be quiet, but some may be controversial. I appreciate you stepping up and applying. You have it's unique in your situation because you were with the city in a prime position, a very important position, and now you're coming back as a volunteer. So again, thank you for stepping up and applying. Councilmember Carlson.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to put my hand up. I, of course, respect Ms. Pointer, and I listen to her arguments and others that I've heard in the community. And some of the things that she mentioned, I experienced myself. If anybody who's watched City Council knows that I didn't get along with Ms. Post all the time. But at the end of her tenure, I made the motion, we supported giving her a commendation. And the reason is that I think she's a good person. I knew her in a professional capacity before I got on council, and she and I worked very well together. It was a completely different experience, not all the time, but part of the time when she was here. And there was something about the culture of the city, and I don't know whether it's this administration or the last one or if it's always been this way, but there's something about the culture where very good people who have a great reputation come in the city, and then they create arguments with council. And then when they leave, they're very nice and friendly and thoughtful in the community again. And I think part of it is that a lot of what's happening in the city is driven by politics and sometimes not very smart politics. And we need to make sure we're focused on policy instead. And even though I disagreed with her, I still liked working with Ms. Post. I think that she is very knowledgeable. We can bring that wisdom and knowledge to the ARC. I had 2 conversations with her where I asked her to promise me that she would be neutral in looking at these efforts. We need to protect communities, but we need to protect property rights as well, so we need to be neutral and look at these things, and she assured me she would. I don't always vote with the people I respect a lot in the community, and in this case, I'm going to vote yes with Ms. Post with the promise she gave that to be neutral and support the community and neighborhoods. Thank you.
Councilmember Vieira.
Thank you very much. No, I'll be voting yes, absolutely. You're extremely qualified. You're a wonderful person. It's funny. I was thinking back on my experience with you when you were working with the city formerly. I remember Timber Falls of 113th.
I do.
A community where you talk about people who aren't given attention or respect or dignity. It's what Michael Harrington called the other America. That's the other Tampa. And I went out there with you and with staff a number of times, and I remember seeing you interact with folks out there. You showed compassion, you showed empathy, you showed professionalism, and you were the face of the city of Tampa. And because of that involvement, things moved forward at Timber Falls, thank God, and a lot of good things went forward. So, I mean, I don't see as to why this vote should fall victim to what I call the city council culture wars. I strongly support your, you're seeking this, and I think you're going to do a great job. And I thank you for your public service, because this doesn't pay anything. And I'd served previously on the Civil Service Review Board, and for I think it was 8 years, and I'm sure you're going to do a stellar job. So thank you.
Councilwoman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Ms. Post. Of course, I don't know you, so I just have the privilege of listening to you, plus the public comment. And one thing that I would say for sure is I like the fact that you're a fighter. You're going to fight back and say what you believe, and I want you to do that. Even if it's something that I may not agree with, you have every right to use your voice in the manner where you feel it's in the best interest of whatever decision that you're making. And so I'm open to that because sometimes you learn something when someone's on the opposite side of it. The fact that you're volunteering and it's been a position that's been open for 2 years, I welcome the opportunity to see what you're made of. So
Thank you.
Congratulations if you get the vote.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, in every issue, you have one side and the other side, no matter what it is. And I've had the pleasure of working with you for some period of time. We've had discussion in the past on certain items, and a lot of times I would maybe say, I don't quite understand this, or you're on one side, I was more on the other side. But that's not the question here. The question here is, what do you want to do to make it better? And you want to do that because you've applied for this position. I'm not going to hold whatever, you had a political job. Let's face it. Not that you were told what to do. You were doing what you thought was best for the community. And within those realms, it's like being an elected official. You can be wrong, and you can be right. But a lot of times, even those that feel that you're right think that you're wrong. And if this crowd here today is here, and half of them on one side and the other half on the other side, when they come back the second time, the one that was on your side is the opposite of your side. So these are the things called human nature. I don't know all the facts, what was presented or not. I can only say what I know in my limited experience in dealing with your operation when you were working for the city from 2000 to 2002. And therefore, I will be supporting your position.
Yes, ma'am.
This one's difficult for me because I was a neighborhood leader during that time, and I remember hearing from Than and other neighborhood leaders about the difficulty. So for me, I have trouble with that. I do understand this is a different position. I'm just very hesitant. I will support you only because of your knowledge and the fact that you live in a historic home, and I'm going to expect that you use those. But I'm just going to be honest, I'm going to vote with hesitation.
Sure, go ahead.
We're not allowed to talk to each other outside the chambers, but I just want to say to Councilmember Vieira, I agree with you most of the time, but when you say city council culture wars, I take great offense to that. I don't know exactly what you meant by it, but the administration is documented. The administration created a lot of fights with city council in the prior 4 years. One former city council member is about to sue the city and probably the mayor over an orchestrated attack by the.
I'm sorry, sir.
If there's any potential
There
litigation.
are text messages that came from public records that the media has, where the representatives of the administration were sending text messages to city council members asking them to argue with us publicly. And then they sent that to the media and asked the media to cover about the conflict at city council, which only existed because they were asking council members to fight with each other. And so I agree with you on most things. Because I'm not allowed to talk to you about it outside of this meeting, I just want to tell you, I think that for the most part, we all get along very well. And the conflicts that we saw before were not the result of city council. They were the result of the administration interfering with city council business. Thank you.
And let me say something. I got to say something.
I'm not going to.
I got to say something.
We got to move on.
I admire everybody, whether you get elected or not. I think you're a great council member. I might disagree with you on the subject matters. And I might take a side with Councilman Vieira. So what he said, and then what you said, and then you came back and said about the administration is exactly what Mr. Vieira is talking about. She's here for a position with the position of appointment of the ARC. She's not here representing the administration. She's not here anything, but she has to be a little bit nervous. I would be. And I'm just saying is, let's stick to the subject matter, which is her and the position she's applying with, and I don't really give a damn what the administration says. So if that doesn't clear it, I don't know what else. And I love all of you. When I leave this office, no matter if you vote for or against me, I forget it altogether. I can't carry it in my head, because then I can't make the right decision. I'm not for anything, nor am I against everything. I take it as it comes to me, whether I like it, don't like it, on the facts that are presented at the time of that hearing. I may go out, and I may be wrong, but I presented the facts the best that I could on the person standing before me. And I love all of you. I really do.
I love you too, Charlie.
I love you more. I love you more.
Now we have a love fest.
And just
Councilman, close it out.
Thank you very much.
Chair.
And to close it out, which is to Councilman Carlson, trust me, I have my opinions on a lot of things that have happened. I'll just say that I do. But in other words, I regret the fact that this vote would become entangled with it. I have my opinions on a lot of things that have happened. This isn't the right forum, I think, to talk about it, but I do have my opinions. But that's all. But again, for the purpose of moving on in the agenda, et cetera, that's all. Thank you.
Chair, is it appropriate I may add one additional comment?
30-second rebuttal.
Not a rebuttal per se, but just a response. I respect that people have different opinions about their interactions with me, and they're entitled to that for sure. I wanted to just, perhaps if it gives you any assurance, there was a particular issue that we dealt with, that I dealt very closely with the THAN group together on, and it was of highest importance to them. It's one of my more proudest accomplishments, and without going into the details of it, if you recall how we eliminated the use of FAR, the floor area ratio, as an element of certain density land use divisions. And that was a direct request by the groups at THAN. It was a difficult decision to move forward with. The development community was opposed to it. And as you know, we presented it to council and it passed and it changed the legislation. And that was done solely in response to, I thought, what was a very good idea that they raised. Now, I think that's just one example. We did not agree on everything, but where it was appropriate, I tried to advocate on behalf of the communities.
Thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk. I said a lot of nice things, but I didn't say how I was going to vote. So let's do a roll call vote. This is for item number 3.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
Wait, is there a motion to appoint Carol Post to the ARC?
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilwoman Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it was a
Thank you.
unanimous.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, if you could make a motion just to have me come back with a resolution.
May I have a motion from Councilmember Shelby to come back with a resolution for the appointment? Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, item number 33 and 34, and then we're going to go to the Chief of Police. No, not yet, sir, not yet. We'll have general public comment
During the
shortly.
public comment, you didn't give me a chance to get out of my seat and come up here.
No, we're not public comment yet, not yet.
I know this is public comment, y'all.
Not yet.
Okay.
No, we're going to have opportunity for public comment shortly, so.
Okay, that's
All right.
coming up next.
Yes, sir. Item number 33.
I hope so.
You want guys to come up?
Yes, sir. Chief Bennett.
Good morning, Council. John Bennett, Chief of Staff, and good morning to our public. It's a privilege for me today, and it was mentioned earlier about the time it took to search for a nominee for purchasing director. I'd like to elaborate on that for a second. First of all, Mr. Spearman, who's been here for a long time and has had many awards in the purchasing department, is a tough act to follow. And I want to thank Council for giving us a contract to keep him on while we're trying to search through the COVID time. We've done 2 national searches, and fortunately, we just came right back to our own in Deanna Faggart, who I put on the the Elmo, just a little bit of her background. She has an MBA from USF. You can see her multitude of certifications. I also want to thank Mr. Spearman for encouraging succession planning by making sure all his managers and leaders go through those certification programs. And of course, she's got 20 years of experience, and half of that is in the city of Tampa. I was privileged to send council about 3 weeks ago her full background. Of course, she did extremely well during the selection process. And again, it's an honor for us to have her come from within the organization, already knowing everything, and the handoff between Mr. Spearman and Deanna Faggart will be amazing, should council agree with the appointment today. But I appreciate the journey with Mr. Spearman and the entire team. So with that, I'll turn it over to council and Deanna Faggart. Thank you.
All right. Ma'am, would you like to say anything before council members chime in?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Deanna Faggart. I appreciate this opportunity to come before you. I have been with the city for 9 years, directly working for Mr. Spearman, and I've learned a great deal here. You know, it's been just a wonderful experience thus far, and I'm really looking forward to the next years and everything that, you know, that I can bring to the table. I won't go into all my experience. I know John talked about it, and you have a copy of my my credentials and all of that, but I'm just very happy to be here. We have an amazing team, and neither Greg or I would be here without them. So,
thank you very much. First, thank you to Mr. Spearman. I've always enjoyed working with you. Since I got elected, you've always been top-notch. I appreciate you. And to you, ma'am, a couple of things. Number one, I'm glad that you've been with the city. So we're hiring from within. I think that's important first because we have wonderful people here working for us, working with us. But second, it's good for morale. People that come to the city know there's an opportunity to get to the top of the department. Great credentials. I appreciate that you went to USF. So I think you're truly a great nominee for this position, and I know that you will do well in following in the footsteps of Mr. Spearman, who has been a great leader. Thank you very much. Councilmember Carlson, Councilwoman Hurtak.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to meet you and look forward to meeting you and talking to you sometime. Based on Mr. Spearman's recommendation, administration, I of course support your nomination, but I would just ask you to look out for the public's interest. You represent the public, the taxpayers, the people of this community, and they have entrusted all of us to spend their money wisely. When I was running for office 5 years ago, people asked me if the city had a shortage of money, would you raise taxes or cut costs? And I said there's a third option, and that is to have proper RFPs. And I came in swinging on that issue 4 years ago, and some people heard me say this before, but I had a lot of very specific contracts that the public had concerns about. And Mr. Spearman called me right away. I sat down with him. It turned out all of them were in contract administration. Since then, the administration has gotten someone new in contract administration. I have Chief of Staff's commitment and the new person's commitment that they're going to clean that up, and there were also some problems in real estate. But I would, based on my conversation with Mr. Spearman 4 years ago, I haven't questioned the contracts that come through us, because a lot of the money, a lot of the contract come in on consent agenda, and we have to trust that the people in your department, you and the people in your department, are not swayed by political influence or threats or anything like that. If somebody comes to you and says, I want my friend selected, whether it's city council, mayor, staff member, anyone, you have to say, no, my position is I have to represent the people of this community, I have to get the best price for it. If somebody says, well, only give 30 days for an RFP so that only one bidder can go, it's your obligation to say, no, we need to give enough time for more people. If someone says, well, one bidder is 85 miles away and the other one is 30, so set the limit at 30 so we can only get that one bidder, say that's not legal and that's not ethical. We need you to be the representative of the people so that we can trust your opinion, your department's opinion. I've trusted Mr. Spearman for 4 years after he had that conversation. I look forward to getting to know you, and I hope I can trust you too, and he says I can. So just remember, please, you're not reporting to us, you're not reporting to the mayor, your only answer is to the people, and we have to protect the people's money. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. I really enjoyed, I had the chance to talk to you, and I really enjoyed our conversation. I thought it was really excellent. Mr. Spearman highly recommends you, and we are really going to miss Mr. Spearman. I'm glad you're staying on for a few weeks to help the transition. I also support your candidacy. One of the things that we talked about is when renewing contracts, making sure we're looking outside. Folks that have the opportunity to get contracts with the city of Tampa then should be able to widen their ability to receive contracts from others. So we need to start sort of making that more circular, making sure that new companies get a chance. And the other thing we talked about was EBO participation on more professional services. That's a real focus of mine. So again, we had a great conversation about it, and I know you've been with the city for 10 years, but one of the things I did love is the fact that you have been in other administrations and you know how other cities work. You can take good, things you learn, whether good or bad, from those, and I think that's actually very important. But when we talked about that, you mentioned how you go out and actually work with your peers in other communities, and which makes a lot of sense since your office also receives a ton of accolades for the work you do, and so I anticipate that will continue, and I see that you have a team there supporting you, and that I think speaks volumes, so congratulations.
Anybody else? If not, I'll ask. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Good morning. Since we've gone full circle and went out on a national search and we came back to you, that says a lot. That means you had to go through a lot, and you're coming behind Mr. Spearman. What I would say as a new council person to you, as you enter into this new opportunity, is you know what needs to be improved. And you need to make your own mark in leadership. Don't be afraid to do that. Even out of respect to Mr. Spearman. I think that he would want you to do that. I would want you to do that. There are definitely some opportunities in EBO that needs to be improved, and I would love to have that conversation with you as well. So congratulations. We've circled back to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I may, I'd just like to take 1 minute to divert from a young lady who's about ready to get the job as the purchasing director. If you may, Mr. Spearman, tell the general public how these things are handled, the process when somebody makes bids, there's a bunch of bids, how it's accumulated. If you can do that for us, I'd appreciate it.
Good morning, Greg Spearman, outgoing purchasing director. So we go through a competitive process. We have a number of different tools in terms of how we procure services. Mostly what we procure services with in purchasing is called the ITB, invitation to bid. And an invitation to bid, we look at who can provide the service, the product, or the commodity at the most competitive price. That's basically what we do. So with all factors being equal with an invitation to bid, the bid is awarded to the firm that has, or the company that has the most competitive price. And let me give you a simplistic explanation of that. Let's say we're buying F-150 Ford pickup trucks. Well, we know we have Bill Curry, we have Gator Ford, we have Veterans Ford, we have all these Ford dealers. We write a spec in terms of how we want that truck to be equipped. Release the spec, bring it back in. Everybody's bidding on the same exact specs. Whichever dealer gives us the most competitive price, that's who wins that bid. We also have another procurement method known as RFPs, requests for proposals. That particular solicitation is not awarded based on price, but it's based upon the proposer that gives us the best proposal in terms of meeting that product or service, and it's based on criteria. We look at experience, we look at references, we look at cost, we look at EBO participation, we look at how the firm is approaching the project. So all those factors come together, and whoever gets the highest score in terms of an RFP would be the firm that the firm that actually gets the award. Think of it in terms of how you recruit for an employee. You're not going to just look at one factor. You're going to look at everything. You're going to look at experience. You're going to look at what they want for a salary. You're going to look at how well they meet the requirements of the job. And RFP is very similar to that. So those are the two primary types of procurement solicitation methods that we use to acquire goods and services of the city.
Yes, sir.
And if I may, I appreciate very much. You certainly covered the whole thing. And you also check that they give you a list of the employees that are gonna do the job. I remember seeing some of those specs and ones that I reviewed, just incidentally, I pick one every so often and go over how many employees they have, what they do, what they don't do, how many job experience they have, and
That's correct.
criteria area regarding the subject matter that's before yourself.
That is
And so it'd
correct.
be the young lady who's right to your left. So these are all the things that you go through. It's not one person making the decision by themselves. It's a group of individuals sit down and they chat about the facts that are before them at that period of time. Notice I said at that period of time. You may give a contract to somebody today, and tomorrow that person gets arrested for whatever reason. And there goes everything. So I want to thank you for your years of service. I've known you for a long, long time. You and I had hair then.
We sure
I'm going to
did.
be joking matter, which is not a joking matter, but you've done an excellent job, and I appreciate, the citizens appreciate what you've done for many, many years, and God bless you. May you have a long life and a healthy one.
Thank you.
Would you like to move the substitute resolution, sir?
I move the substitute resolution.
All right, this is for item number 33, substitute resolution, moved by Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilwoman Henderson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, a little postscript. When Councilwoman Hurtak was talking with our candidate, we were talking about the outreach, and I think it's, commendable for Mr. Spearman and Deanna and the whole team, including our other outreach. We have over 300 people, I believe, registered for prime time for purchasing to do that matchmaking in the community. So that just speaks to what you and Councilman Carlson and the rest of council has said about getting more opportunity. So, and Councilwoman Henderson, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Next up, Chief Bennett, item number 34 is...
I will be passing that to Deputy Administrator Brad Baird. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Baird, let's talk about Rory Jones.
Brad Baird, Deputy Administrator of Infrastructure. It is my privilege to present to you for consideration for the Water Department Director, Mr. Rory Jones. He, too, is an internal candidate, has been with the city for 25 years. He also went to USF and attained his engineering degree while he was working at the city and working his way up. He is currently the chief engineer for the water department, so he knows, the inner workings of the department, knows what needs to be done. I present to you Mr. Rory Jones.
Thank you. So I'm fortunate to be stepping into a role, potentially, that was set up for success. Past directors, past administration, and you guys, through rates, through our projects, you really set us up for success. I look to continue that on. God blessed me with great support from family, great support from a talented and professional team that surrounds me. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to our future here. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You and I spoke yesterday on the phone. I thought it was going to be a 5-minute conversation.
Sorry.
No, I'm glad it turned into, 30, 45 minutes. But what I appreciated, other than you've been with the city, and again, hiring from within, which I think is great, how you started at the bottom and now are possibly being appointed to a top position here. But the questions that you asked, it showed that you cared. You did your research. You asked me things about myself, things that I like to do, whatever it was, but you actually care. You care about this department. You care about the city. I know you reached out to many council members. I think your heart is in the right place. The water department is big. And we talked about 2 friends of mine that work for the water department, and you knew them by name. You knew, again, working your way up, you've gotten to know a lot of folks. But it's important that you have those relationships. You're not just leading the department, but you know the folks that are just starting and the folks that have been there. We discussed challenges with the water and what we do looking forward to the future. I think you're a very, very good nominee for this, and I'm going to be very happy to support you. And I know you will be successful, although I will wish you much success, but you're going to do a great job. So
thank you.
I appreciate you. Councilman Carlson, Councilwoman Henderson, I'm sorry, Hurtak, Carlson, Henderson.
Thank you. I agree. I really enjoyed our conversation last week, and we talked about a lot of different things. And while I am thrilled to hear how you worked your way literally from the bottom all the way to the top, my biggest concern then was, how do you know what other departments do? And you just rattled off your close connections with people from different water departments in both the state of Florida, which is so important, and nationally. And I thought that was really wonderful, and I am glad that you have those connections and want you to expand on those. But of course, the thing that you and I talked about most was conservation,
Yes,
because I really
yes.
believe in conservation. And you got back to me right away this week with an email about some tips and ideas and things you want to do for conservation. So I look forward to working with you on that.
Great, great.
I know that you're going to do great in this role, and I'm happy to support you. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to working with you even more.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Councilman Carlson, Councilwoman Henderson.
Yeah, I haven't met you yet, but we have a meeting on the calendar, and I look forward to getting to know you. The people I know and trust you, and that's enough for me. So I assume the conversation will go well. I hear a lot of good things about you. While the public's listening, I want to just make sure that they know that I'm listening to them. And we'll talk more later, but one issue that the public has been concerned about is transparency. We need to make sure that accurate data is presented, the full data, the complete picture, and we've been around with the water department, as you've seen in the last few years. I hope that we'll start a new relationship between the community and the water department if we have the transparency and data presented accurately. Second, there are concerns about how money is spent and oversight of the contractors. I know some of that's contract administration, but anything you can do to make sure that the contractors are on time, on budget, that they're not wasting money. Just because we have the money doesn't mean we need to spend it. We need to make sure it's spent wisely, and I think you will do that. Another thing that we've had a problem with is contractors that rip through roads, and if they're brick streets, they don't always replace the brick. If they leave dirt and mud and messes, they sometimes go too slow and leave roads shut down, and the community is concerned about that. They also want coordination with other entities like traffic and stormwater and DOT and the county, because especially south of Gandy, there are multiple major roads that are blocked at the same time and people can't get in and out. They already have a hard time, and so they want coordination on that. And most of all, nobody in the public wants toilet to tap, and I hope we don't have to have that discussion ever again. And I hope you will, as you look at the science of it and the need, you will come to the same conclusion the rest of us came to. Thank you.
Councilwoman
Thank you.
Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Jones, you know what's so ironic is that I didn't have to talk to you last week, because when we met initially, as the new council member and getting all the background of what would be coming before me to vote on, which is a lot of money, your department needs a lot, our city needs a lot. It's not you, it's our city. And you all are very forward thinking. So of course I interviewed you that day because I'm curious, I'm an educator. I wanted to know your background. And so I just really appreciate that here it is for the second time today that we've looked at internal candidates who have come up through the ranks, and this is your moment. And I just want to say congratulations, because I've learned so much from you already, the needs of our city, the forward thinking information and background that you've already shared with me, and the direction that we're going, breaking it down, those millions of dollars that we have for our upcoming projects. I am excited for your future. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've known Mr. Jones before he was Mr. Jones, head of the water department, because you've been running the water department for how long now?
Here and there, maybe 5-6 months. This guy has been.
You're a rookie with a legend and already in the water department, because you've been there how long?
For a little over 25 years.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It does fly. It does fly.
But I want to thank you for what you do. Water department director doesn't deal in politics, he deals in facts. And the fact is, the city of Tampa, for a long, long time, has had the best water quality at the best price for a long, long time. In fact, some entities look at us and envy us because they got to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to do what? bring the water quality up to an acceptable. We don't have to do that. We've been there for a long, long time. And your responsibility is to make sure that when somebody turns a spigot on, unless there's a drought like there is right now, and we have to talk about that because sooner or later we're going to ask the public to cut back on water consumption. It has to happen. So we're buying 10 to 15 million gallons a day because we only under an 82 million gallons a day average that you can make and send out to your customers. And you talk about politics, when you have the capability during the rainy season to double your ASR, aquifer storage and recovery, from 1.2 billion to make more wells and put it to 2.4 billion, you won't be able to get it. What a country we live in. But I can only tell you, when you talk about politics, it's not the water department. It's the entities around the water department. As far as I know, you, Mr. Baird, in fact, Mr. Tippin and I and Mr. Baird used to have lunch once in a while during his retirement. And one day we picked him up at his house, in just 30 seconds, Mr. Chairman. And we picked him up and he said, "What the hell's going on with you two guys? Look at this, the pipes are here and they've been sticking up here for a month." So we got whiff of that, we did some action, and then that same contractor that was doing the job was dismissed by the city. However, the contractual obligation that we and all the cities have, once the insurance company, the co-insurance company takes over, it's not up to us to pick who's going to finish it. It's up to them because the baby belongs to them now. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And that's how that happened. And I want to thank the people in that portion of the city. I'm not going to name it. They've done a hell of a job in sticking with the city and getting it done. So congratulations to you and congratulations to the city of Tampa for getting it done. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
Miranda, would you like to move item 34?
Yes, I would, Mr. Chairman. Item 34, I move it with great honor and respect.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say before, I know we're doing a 5-minute recess, but I just wanted to say, I hope that after we have this presentation, that we respect the public and allow them to speak before we go on because I think it's really important that we don't seem like we've already made up our minds before we listen to the public.
I agree with that. However, Councilwoman Henderson has requested to speak first after public comment.
Sure.
Not making motions or anything, but I understand. Councilman
No,
Carlson.
absolutely. I just think that they've already been waiting for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yep.
So.
Yes,
Yeah, further, I agree with that. And one of the reasons is that, similar to the hurricanes, I've had no briefing from staff since this incident on Sunday morning, Saturday night. I even sent an email to Chief of Staff and asked for a briefing, and his response was that I should have been receiving the press releases from the police department. It turns out that one of the people who was killed was from my district, and I didn't know that until I read it in the paper. And we need, if we're on the front line talking to people in the community, and we need to get information. This is going to be the first information and my first chance to ask any questions. I don't know how we can propose any policy when we don't even know the details of it. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We're going to come back. We're going to start with the chief. We're going to go to public comment, and then council members are going to speak with a request by Councilwoman Henderson to speak first. All right, 5-minute recess. All right, City Council is back. Roll call, please.
Carlson. Burtett. Here. Clendenin. Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
You have a fiscal point.
All right, Chief Burkhall. And after you, we will go to public comment.
Morning, Council.
Good morning.
What happened Saturday was or Sunday morning was a true tragedy. And you mentioned before care, the care of the officers, the community coming together in that tragedy. If there's any silver lining, it's the care of this community. But I'll tell you, the victims, dealing with the victims' families of the deceased victims in that crime scene is probably one of the hardest things that I've done in my career. And one of the greatest things, and Councilman Carlson, you mentioned it before, is seeing the hard, fine work of our officers and running towards the danger and doing what they can do to keep our community safe. And then the outpouring support of the victims' families, the community coming together, providing tips, providing help, the stakeholders that have come together. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've received, our federal, state, and local partners, truly overwhelming in a situation like this. We've hoped that this kind of shooting would never happen in our city. If you recall, we were able to thwart one earlier this year at a club off of Del Mabry, and we had a security guard that actually intervened and prevented a shooting from happening. And we see it happening all across the nation. We hoped that would never happen here, but I'll tell you what, this community was prepared and responded and rebounded extremely well. Ybor is a safe community. This incident was a fight between two individuals that escalated to gunfire that never should have escalated to gunfire. Ybor is a great community, and I was there last night speaking with community members and the night before. I'd like to give you just a timeline of the events, and I'll start out with that morning, right before the clubs let out, literally 10 minutes before, and actually some clubs let out earlier, so this is in the mass what the clubs are letting out. A shooting occurred right at the 1600 block of East 7th Avenue. Two victims, a 14-year-old and a 20-year-old, died as a result of the injuries. We had 16 additional victims who were quickly triaged at the scene and transported by Tampa Fire Rescue to nearby hospitals, 15 of which were sure had gunshot wounds. The other may have been glass. Within 6 hours of the shooting, we were able to place charges on a 22-year-old who had shot the shot that killed the 14-year-old. And in that case, he did turn himself in, he did claim self-defense, and the reason we were able to get charges so quickly is because of the outpouring support of the community providing us with videos. And those videos led to the corroboration of the correct story, which led to second-degree murder with the firearm charges very quick, which is unheard of in a case like this to have charges that quick. So progressing through the investigation, local businesses, community members cooperated with the investigation, again, beyond any scope that I could have ever imagined. They provide investigators with surveillance video, times, shootings, everything that you could have imagined. Based on that data, we do believe that there is 2 additional suspects who appeared that have fired rounds. And that's why we've partnered with the FBI to create a portal, and we've put that out for citizens to submit any video, and it actually makes it very easy to submit. You can go on there and just upload your video. And we are receiving a plethora of videos on that website as we speak. We're reviewing all of those tips, photos, and the detectives have some very promising leads. So some additional actions that we're taking, we have a victim's advocate that's new in the place and has met with the victims and the families, and actually took the victim's advocate to one of the families of one of our fallen, and she is a great asset providing resources and help for the families in need. So we're working closely also with the victim advocates from the Florida Attorney General, and in addition to that, you may have seen already that we have increased patrols. You know, for me, even though violent crime is down in Ybor, it doesn't matter. It's the fear of crime and what happened. And I want everybody to feel safe, and if that means putting extra officers, that's the least that we can do. In fact, I was in Columbia the other night and speaking to the employees and said if anybody wants an escort to their car, that was great. Fortunately, they said they didn't need it, but we're here if anybody feels that they need an escort to their car. So the Tampa Police Department command staff and our patrol, we've also met with everybody out there. I've been in several community meetings and met with countless citizens and businesses. We are working with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, FHP, and the alcohol, tobacco, and beverage in providing additional patrols in the area. I want you to know, and I think I've made it very clear in the media, that the city and the Tampa Police Department is not going to tolerate this. What happened, a fight that escalated into gunfight, it's completely unacceptable. We made it very clear that we're making an arrest right away, and we made it very clear that we have some promising leads. But what's even better is the outpouring support of the community, and that's the reason that we're making progress in this case. So I've met with the leaders. I think we have some ideas on how to make Tampa stronger and safer together. I think there's plenty of different avenues that we can look at and approach. And some other things, I've spoken to the Orlando Police Chief. I've looked at their model that they have up there. I think we have several options on the table. I think part of that is looking at legal and what will work in the city of Tampa and what will work with our community. So on that, with the email that went out, I'd like to bring up the city attorney really quick to speak on that.
And Chief, could you provide the website? Councilwoman Hurtak was asking the website where people can go to for that portal to upload videos.
Yeah, it's, I'll have to give it to you. It's FBI.gov/Tampa shooting.
Tampa shooting.
Yes.
Okay. FBI.gov/Tampa shooting. And that will allow the public access to a portal where they can upload any video evidence.
And it's very simple. Actually, in Ybor the other night when I was walking around, some citizen that was sitting out had a video. They were having dinner, and I explained that to him, and we walked right through it, and he did it in a matter of seconds and uploaded his video.
Thank you very much. Chief Bennett and then Andrea Zellman.
Good morning again, John Bennett, Chief of Staff. I just wanted to augment Chief Burkhaw's comments real quick. When I got the call a little after 3 a.m. and I suited up and came in as well, I was on the phone with Chief Tripp, and I just want to acknowledge that just west of this incident, there was already a fire rescue unit handling a lower acuity call, and all the fire rescue ran towards the danger and started treating victims immediately. And so I just want to make sure the public knows that Tampa Fire Rescue was there in full force. They were all debriefed after for their critical incident stress based on that mass casualty response and getting those people quickly to the hospital. But I just think it's important that we show the full cooperation with public safety, who just happened to be in the area a little west, heard the gunshots, and moved in and did everything they needed to do as well. So hats off to Tampa Fire Rescue as well.
Thank you. Ms. Zellman?
Good morning and happy birthday yesterday to Councilman Miranda. A few things, as I said in my email to all of you, and I apologize, I didn't send it, I believe, until close to 5, but it was something I had been working on and talking with folks about and researching all day long. We've all, every one of you, the mayor, the police chief, myself, everyone at the city has been getting calls, having meetings, talking to folks in Ybor about how we can respond to this. And there's very little we can do overnight. I know there's been, and I don't want to speak before any council person has the opportunity to raise some of these issues, but there have been, comments about closing businesses early, changing alcoholic beverage permit hours, things like that. Anything like that can't be done overnight. We have to look carefully at it. There are legal rights, there's property rights, there's issues. Simply the way we do alcoholic beverage permitting, we have some folks whose hours of operation are controlled by city code. Obviously, we could amend the city code to change the hours of operation for the people who are governed by that part of the code, but there are others who have permits where the permit itself provides for hours of operation. And so we can't necessarily go in and change their permit hours. So there's a lot of factors that have to be considered. We don't have a mechanism to tell businesses to shut down wholesale at a particular time. The limited exceptions, in the Florida statutes, there's basically 3 opportunities to do a curfew. And a curfew really isn't necessarily shutting businesses down, it's telling people they can't be out. But, one is when there's a natural emergency or a state of emergency, a local state of emergency, under the emergency management statute, and that our ability to do things under that statute were significantly curtailed after COVID. But if the mayor were to declare a state of emergency, and obviously we have to have a basis for that, the city could impose a curfew, but it can only last 7 days. It can only be renewed, I believe, 3 times. I think the maximum it could be in effect is 42 days. There's another form of curfew when, for instance, you have riots. We actually used this after the George Floyd incident and the riots we had in Tampa. We had, I believe, a 1-day curfew. Again, that allows a city to institute a curfew for a 72-hour duration. But you really can't do a curfew for a significant length of time absent a true emergency, which again, even then, it's no more than 42 days if you're infringing on individual rights and liberties. The one exception to that is the Florida statutes expressly allow for a juvenile curfew. And so that's why we are bringing that to you. I believe, obviously it's not going to solve every problem, but it's something easy that the city can do. And I think, again, as several people have discussed, in this particular instance, there was a 14-year-old that was involved and was ultimately killed. As I explained in my email, the city had a juvenile curfew, and we actually have on the books what's called the Ybor Child Protection Ordinance, which is limited, is like a curfew just for Ybor. Our original juvenile curfew, which was adopted in the 90s, was found to be unconstitutional by the Florida Supreme Court. The Ybor Child Protection Ordinance, which is found at section 14-29 of our code, suffers from some of the same problems that one had, which is why, to my understanding, it's never been enforced. So the other thing, the draft ordinance the proposed ordinance that I prepared for you, should you want to go that route, would do is repeal those and clean up the code and adopt an ordinance that's 100% consistent with the Florida statutes. So theoretically, it would be defensible and shouldn't present problems. And should council want to go forward, you could have first reading today. Then we'd notice it, and at the second public hearing 2 weeks later, it would be a noticed public hearing. You could take comment again and then adopt it should you wish to do that. And again, it's not intended to solve every problem, but it is a tool that law enforcement would have And it is something that, again, while the other requests that have been made are going to require more time and careful thought about what direction the city wants to go and then how we can do that legally, because again, there's a lot of factors at issue. This is something that, again, we feel comfortable saying is legally sound, can be done quickly. And again, it's one thing that can be done, but it is something. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that or comments or.
I have a point of order question.
All right.
Thank you, Chief Burkoff, for presenting what you did. Much of what he said was similar to what's been in the media already. I have a lot of questions that I want to ask him just about what happened, and I don't know how we can diagnose what happened without asking him more questions. We jumped to solutions. So point of order is, are we going to ask him questions about what happened before the public speaks, or are we going to do it afterwards?
I'd like to hear from the public first, and then it'll be open to council members to ask questions, more details, ask the city attorney questions about ordinances, because you mentioned we can draft an ordinance today. Should we go X avenue or so I have a lot of questions, but I want to hear from
my suggestion is that we separate the questions about what happened from the problem solving or solutions, because we need to know what happened before we start generating.
We can have a round of general questions, and then the second round would be policy decisions and steps forward. So, but first, we'll hear from the public. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I would just suggest maybe we do that at staff reports. I have a memorial service. We're honoring an officer that died in line of duty 40 years ago today, so I need to step out for that. So I would suggest maybe if the questions, I could come back at the 1:30.
When is the event? Now at 11?
It's at 11:30.
Okay. Public comment is probably going to be robust, so. All right. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll wait for you, and we'll figure it out. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. If you'd like to speak, please come up and state your name, and we'll start the clock. We will start with the legendary Luke LaRoe.
Honorable Chairman, members of the council, I'm here representing a number of businesses in Ybor City, and I think that the
Please state your name, sir.
Luke LaRoe. My clients wanted to join in the expression of sympathy that certainly the council has expressed, and that's the first and foremost thing they wanted me to memorialize for the record in this tragic event, and also to express their appreciation for the police, Tampa Fire and Safety for stepping in as quickly as they did in solving this problem. You know, I've represented places of public assembly all over the country, and I will say without any reservation that the businesses I represent on 7th Avenue are second to none in the security that they provide to their customers. They have their own security staff, they hire off-duty police, they have security consultants that come in and train everybody, and quite honestly, of all of the places that I've worked with, again, throughout the country, they're probably as safe as any location anywhere in this entire country to go to. Probably certainly as safe as you can be, and yet we still have these tragic events unfold. Obviously, this is a much broader cultural issue, and I don't think anybody is going to disagree with the fact that gun violence is an epidemic in this country, and it needs to be addressed somehow. But I would respectfully submit that limiting the hours of operation or trying to do something that would impede those people that have stepped up and put time and effort into doing everything they can to make sure their businesses are safe would not be a step in the right direction. My undergraduate degree is in criminology, and I think that rather than engage in any kind of experiment, the answers are really already there. And I think that the doctrine, and I looked it up, I looked at some of my old books that I still have, it's called the doctrine of routine activities. And what that means is if you change the hours of operation and you have people that are engaging in predatory criminal activity, they change their hours of operation too. So it doesn't really solve a problem to change that. It really just moves it to a different direction. Some of the other issues, and obviously I wouldn't be here if it wasn't such a threat to the financial well-being of my clients to enforce a earlier closure time would be financially devastating to them. And obviously, in this instance, and I'm glad that Ms. Zellman brought this up because I found it, I was familiar with the original juvenile curfew ordinance, familiar with the challenges there, and I did find section 14-29. That is substantially more constitutional than the one before it. I just simply want to say that my clients, with their video cameras and whatever they can do to assist in any investigation, not just this, but across the board, we're here to help, we're here to work toward the problem, but we would certainly ask the city to explore every other option than changing the hours of operation or impeding them, which in fact, they're the ones that have tried the best of anyone out there to try to make sure that this is a safe place. So we're here to help. We're going to offer our services to the city, and anything we can do to try to remedy this, we're more than happy to do. Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, if we can please keep from clapping and also silence your cell phones. Hey, thank you very much. All right, Pastor Williams, please state your name. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Pastor Williams, located 1112 East Scott Street, Tampa, right here in Tampa, and I must say this here. I first need to read some scripture to you all, so you all that don't want to hear them, y'all could leave. To everything, it's the book of Ecclesiastes. To everything there's a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die. A time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stone, and a time to gather stone together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silent, and a time to speak out. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace. I thank God for His word. This is His word. And I know a lot of you all probably hadn't heard nothing and read it for yourself. But I thank God that I'm here today to read His word and continue to preach the gospel as I am. Although I'm handicapped, that don't stop me. I got to continue doing what the Lord wants me to do. And I thank God for this lawyer right here. And he might say, well, why are you thanking me? I got many reasons for thanking her. I wanted to get him to work for me because of the way the people are treating me in my neighborhood. They're trying to take my house now. They took my church. They don't want to do me no good at all. Everything that comes from certain people is violent and corrupted. But I just thank God. I'm going to continue to trust Him and keep my belief in Jesus Christ. You know, I'm an 85-year-old man. Thank God. I've been coming down here a long time. But nobody want to pay me no attention. The only thing they want to do is ring that bell on me. But I just thank God. Thank God that I'm here another day. And God has been so grateful to all of us, whether we think so or not. And you know what? If we give God the praise that He deserves, we can't give Him what He deserves, but we can at least praise Him from our own heart. I need somebody to do something for me. I'd like for this lawyer to do it. Check out my church. They're trying to steal it. And come over there on 3060 Shadow Lawn, and they're trying to take my house.
Thank you very much, sir.
They're doing me bad. I know you're going to thank me, but thank you too.
Yes, sir.
God is good.
Thank you very
Regardless of how we feel about it. God is extremely good to us. And I want to give Him all the praise and all the glory while I can, you know?
Yes, sir.
God bless all of you all. I'm going to stay here a little while because I want to hear what the rest of them got to say.
All right. And I agree Mr. Shelby is the best, so thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
That's a hard act to follow. Teresa Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
And I am with the Tampa Alcohol Coalition. I've been here before. And I've been working with Ellen Snelling, who was unable to make it today, for 15 years, focusing on preventing underage drinking, binge drinking, and impaired driving. This past weekend is a stark reminder of how swiftly someone's life can change. And for those families, it's altered forever. My heart and prayers go out to the victims. But it's imperative our community work together to prevent these tragedies from happening again. Tampa Alcohol Coalition partnered with the City of Tampa more than 20 years ago to improve the safety of Ybor City. TAC advocated for teen curfews, and the Ybor Child Ordinance was passed unanimously in 2004, and I have that ordinance here that I'll pass out later. The citywide curfew was repealed, but not this child protection ordinance. TAC worked with Ybor particularly on hospitality resource panels, the cheap drink specials, DUI, underage drinking, and we want to continue to work with these, Ybor's vision and to make it a safe place for everyone to go and enjoy themselves. To say our state alcohol laws are weak is an understatement. We're only one of 2 states that doesn't, that you can serve someone intoxicated. That's Nevada and Florida. There's no penalties for over-serving someone. We're one of 12 states that doesn't have any restrictions on special drinks like happy hours all day long, women drink free and stuff like that. We actually have a reverse liquor liability law that relieves bars and clubs of the liability of a 21-year-old or older if they're overserved alcohol and cause a crash. This needs to be changed, and Ellen and I will be going up there the following week and discussing some of this with our legislators. What we can do here locally is enforce that child protection curfew. And also, what other cities have done throughout our state, 21 cities and counties, St. Pete and Orlando, is they have a late night alcohol sales permit where you stay open till 3 o'clock. However, if you mess up and you have noise, drunk people, whatever you decide, and by noise I mean loud noise, if people are drunk, if there's violence, increased crime around your place, then you have to close until noon until you can prove to the community that you're responsible. We don't agree with shutting down everyone just because there are a few bad apples. And so I really hope you guys take that to heart. I also have that information here. Some other things we can do are public campaigns, remind people to keep their car doors locked, increase responsibility beverage service training, and in our schools, teach parents and students that there's consequences for violence, and we need to encourage parents to enforce curfews at their own home without us having to come in and telling them how important that is.
Thank you very
Any
much.
way we can help, Ellen's emailed you, you guys have her information, but however
ma'am.
we can help, and I'll give you this information.
Thank you very much. Anything you'd like to hand out, please give to the attorney and he'll distribute to us.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Thank
Yes,
you so
ma'am.
much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please state your name. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Johnny Johnson.
Good morning.
I stand here as a citizen of Tampa, but I'm also the vice president of a nonviolence Rise Up for Peace Against Gun Violence. I stand here as a parent that lost his child to gun violence, 3 first cousins. I stand here again today as an advocate for victims. I was able to spend yesterday with our silent march in Ybor with the family and other 2 victims that lost their lives. I was able to speak with the mother and father of both kids. It bothers me that this is always a knee-jerk reaction when we have gun violence and shooting, something that's been ongoing. But the solution to close the businesses early is not going to resolve the problem. Again, I stand here as a victim of gun violence. When 2 elephants fight, the only thing that get damaged is the grass. So we have city council, we have businesses, and everyone that has investments in this here, to think about the ordinary person that walks the streets and stuff that get hurt. And we must find other ways to address this ongoing problem. Closing businesses is not going to solve it. Curfews is not going to solve it. But standing up to that, you say close, so we're going to surrender to the perpetrators. You telling me the best way that I done worked all week long and I decide to come out on a weekend and enjoy myself is just to stay in my house. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. I think we should find better ways or come up with other solutions to resolve this issue. There's a number of things we can do. I read along the way, not everything we face we can change, but we can't change nothing until we face it. So we must stand up to this issue in another way instead of closing down businesses, hurting people. There's already inflation. There's already a lot of variables that's causing issues and chaos in our communities, in our city. One thing we can do, the quieter we become, the more we can hear. So we just come down and sit and listen and find better solution that helps everybody in this issue. I mean, we can get, Chief Burkhoff said it, we can get more patrol. I remember coming up, they had horses in Ybor. I grew up right in Central Park. That's no longer. So I've seen other ways that we have handled situations like this, but closing business, telling me and the other constituents of the community just to stay home, surrender to the perpetrators, I don't think that's the best way to go about handling this situation. There's a plenty of organizations that's out here fighting to help and resolve this gun violence issue. I think everyone should have a seat at the table to voice their opinion. It takes all of us. So one or two people making decisions for the collective of us all without having their input is, I think, is disrespectful. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate working with all of y'all guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Good morning, Connie Burton. About 30 years ago, coming to this city council, I remember the community tried to offer solutions for young people so they would not end up in environments where they don't belong. The offer of having an alcohol, tobacco, and free dances for young people was so rejected by the police department and city government at that time by imposing ridiculous fees and fines on individuals that was trying to solve the problem. Thereby, young people then going into parking lots and bowling alleys and staying until 2 a.m. doing whatever. So when you hear on the national news that there's a mass shooting in Tampa, it was bound to happen, but killings happen here all the time. Unfortunately, it was in Ybor City. And as our deepest condolence go to those families and those individuals, it might be that's where we find a solution. For the last 2 years, you, the council, have not addressed the fact that you say that you recognize poverty as being an issue. Poverty being an issue inside of our community. That young man, 14 years old, was he still in school or had he been kicked out? Who was watching and tracking that? From what social economic condition do those young people come from? So you're passing a budget every week and you refuse to acknowledge your resolution because you do not want to pour real money into those communities, and then you expect for these issues to solve themselves. They will not. There's going to be more killings. You know why? Because our young people are so confused in our community. They don't know how to address real issue. They listen to certain culture, certain music, and there's a sense of hopelessness. Inside of the Hillsborough County, where black folks we have missing from our communities, men's fathers. You know where they're located at now? In a Florida State institution called prison. They're in prison. Somebody that can offer some guidance. And every week y'all just kick the can down the road. You talk about second chance hiring. We don't hear no more about it. It all becomes political punchlines for you guys. If you really want to solve the problem, what you would do is add money into the budget so we can stop band-aiding these issues and get down to the real issue. I bet those young people that was in the summer job program, you know where they probably was? If they were still working through the summer, they was resting so they can get to their job come Monday morning. But we're not going to solve the problem by imposing curfews, because what you do is run it from one block to the next block. Thank you very much.
Please, no clapping. Yes, sir.
Mentez not means anything's possible.
I want to say huru. Huru means freedom in Swahili. You know, I feel honored when I'm in the presence of stupid people because it makes me feel really intelligent. And what you see is opportunists, and you see stupid people. You hear stupid comments. You hear stupid things. This city government, people should be here talking about capitalism, socialism, communism, reparations, democratic principles, the United States Constitution, and who have rights and who doesn't have rights. But you hear stupid people talk about it's not just the teenagers' faults, it's the people's faults who leaving their cars unlocked. How in the hell I can't leave my home or my car unlocked and not have the anticipation or the expectancy that nobody should encroach upon my personal property? Most of the people here today, they're not here because it's an interest they have in black lives, because black lives doesn't matter. They have an interest in business in Ybor City. They don't care about the young man or the young men that got murdered. Apparently their parents didn't care about them. Because what were they doing out? You know, like, people expect African people to be irresponsible. People expect African people to, some elderly ladies want a $60 million park and there's homeless people all around the area. People expect African people to be irresponsible because we have been underdeveloped and dispossessed. 623 years of it. So the fact of the matter is, it's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And all the stupidity about curfews, you can't have no curfew. All the stupidity they talk makes absolutely, positively no sense. But that's what politicians do. That's exactly what politicians do. That's what they specialize in. There are real problems to be solved here. We're 26% of this Tampa population, and we need to see 26% of this Tampa's budget. African kids getting killed all the time, all over the country, not just in Ybor City, but now the politicians are using it as an opportunity to do whatsoever they do with it, to be on the world stage. It's a big problem going on in Palestine. We don't need to take the focus off of that. And it's a big problem going on right here with this city budget, where they talking about getting bond money to do whatsoever they do. But, oh, the city is doing so great, but they need bond money. No, we need responsible government. That's what we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, next speaker.
Happy Thursday. My name is Sally Issy Lee, and I'm sorry to hear about all the grief and everything. But, like the brother said, if we had more different places and spaces for kids to go through. And I want to ask a question. Why we never see any of our politicians in our neighborhood? The only one I knew that came took interest in the Volunteer Missionary Society Penny Fund was Councilman Maniscalco. We haven't seen our councilman in our neighborhood. Most people don't even know who you are and what you stand for. Come and visit and see what shape our neighborhood is in. And then I would like to say, I found a lot of grants and loans, supposed to be startups, that are available for underserved and indigent people. We don't get that in too much in Tampa. Nobody, like the brother say, cares about us, our programs, and Councilman Hurtak and Councilman Henderson. Did y'all get y'all printout of my organizational plan?
I believe you put stuff in everybody's mailbox. So.
Okay, but nobody want to discuss us poor business, indigent, underserved people, like with my program. I don't know whether Chief Bennett got one, but everybody talks a good spiel until it's time. We need to be in the budget. My project needs funding. Is anybody going to respond to it? So there's no help for us small business. Are you all gonna act or react to businesses like mine, who have jumped through all the hurdles and hoops and trying to obey and doing what's required, but we don't even get a response? But you know what? This is matched by this. These are God's prayers and promises for us women. Okay. After I got 81 more miles out of 5,000 for housing and homelessness. The only person listed was Councilman Scalco. I come down here and talk to about our living conditions. I had an air conditioner for 90 days. He listened. Now they just doing our community. But we're a void citizen sitting in the middle of CRA, round the corner, the resource center with Suffolk Springs. But we don't get, and I get tired of people stealing my darn walkers too. We don't know who we're a senior neighborhood, but we don't have that much representation. And we're sitting there in the void. And nobody really cares about us, but we do. And we want some response and help from our organ and our leaders here in the community. The Volunteer Missionary Society, I know the devil trying, the negatives, I call them, be trying to stop me. But every time I have to jump through a hoop, I get more success. And I got good volunteers. Thank God for my volunteers. But like I say, this goes with this. And when the 81 days is over, I'm gonna say, God, it's on you now. I say I met all the requirements they asked me to do, but we still don't even get a response. It's a shame the way y'all treat us small, indigent, underserved businesses. And I know what I'm doing. Because God wouldn't have gave me this job, 5,000 miles for housing and home, if he didn't. I submitted. And here it is, and you all got a copy. But we want some response, please, from somebody. And I'm going to be moving on down the road to success. And I'm not going to stop, and I'm not going to give up. Because I'm anchored in God, and he got my back. And he told me when I finished what I was doing, one of my promises is in this book.
Yes, ma'am.
And I
Thank
done
you very
wrote it
much.
out.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Chair.
we waiting on a response, everybody.
I think we should have the city council attorney, because we have a lot of new people here, we should have the city council attorney explain why we don't respond during public comment.
Mr. Shelby, if you want to read the rules.
Yes, members of the public, I'm sorry, members of the public, this is your opportunity to speak and be heard. Council members, per their rules, should refrain from engaging a speaker in dialogue during public comments. So please, if you have a question, it's a rhetorical question, the council members are not in a position to be able to engage you and to respond to you at this time. And the other thing that we should say is with regard to public participation, the council should be addressed generally and to not direct particular comments to particular council members. Let me see what rule that is I have here. But that's basically it. So if you can, just to direct your comments to the council as a body, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Yes, hello, my name is Chad Perry. I'm not with any organization. I'm relatively new to Tampa. I've been here about 7 months. I came here from New York City, where I worked in the nightclub industry for about 20 years. Obviously, in New York, we have gun issues. We did take measures. Guns aren't even allowed in the city, but yet they still make their way in. You proposed closing these bars early. 2 hours early, from what I understand. If you take a bartender who's working a 10-hour shift, you take 2 hours away from him, you're effectively taking 20% of his income away every night. Not to mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going to be taken away from the bar owners in a city, a neighborhood where rents are going up by the month, where small business owners can't even afford to open up shop anymore. What you're going to end up doing is pushing them out. I think that it's more of a placebo than a remedy. We need to look at the issues with the guns as well as underage patrons in Ybor past a certain time. 2 kids are dead right now. Neither one of them were 21. The only thing that people are doing in Ybor past, say, 11 o'clock is buying alcohol. If you're under the age of 21, you're not adding to the economy in Ybor. I think we need to look at that. And I think that as well, maybe we could put metal detectors at the doors of some of these clubs, something we did in New York. I understand we're not New York, but if you look at underage drinking, if you look at the gun laws, I think that you could start there. The answer isn't to close bars early and cut the feet out from underneath the bar owners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Hello, my name is Rick Kowalczyk. I'm the owner of Southern Nights here in Ybor City. I just wanted to take a second to figure out the reason that you guys think it's a good idea to close the doors at 1 o'clock after an incident happens here. It's not doing anything by solving the problem. All that's doing is band-aiding it. We look at the things that have happened in the past. I mean, look at COVID gun laws, or look at what happened when you guys, the COVID lockdowns during COVID. It's not like all those problems went away. When the lockdowns were lifted, the problems were still there. So we're not trying to solve any problems by doing things like this. All you're doing is hurting the livelihood of business owners and as well as a lot of the bartenders and managers that work there. The chief brought up a couple of different things. He mentioned the fact of Orlando. I have bars in Orlando as well. We've had a lot of instances happen there, Pulse being one of them. But after that happened, they didn't shut down the bars because of something like that. That would be foolish. What they did was they implemented new rules. We've been here for 9 years. We don't require off-duty police officers, and when we do have off-duty police officers, they're not posted in front of the spaces. So if the problem places that you guys keep talking about had the off-duty police officers in front of those spaces, people aren't going to walk out the door and start shooting each other. There's cops out front. So when I do see the cops in Ybor City, they do a great job, but majority of the time they are walking around Ybor in groups of 8 to 10. So I don't understand how you guys think that would be a great idea to close a bar now at 1 o'clock instead of stationing them in front of those individual bars. And I'm not saying the city pay for it. I'm saying have the bars pay for them. I'd be happy to pay for an off-duty police officer every single night that we're open. But the only time we ever tried to do that after Pulse, we paid for it. The cops never showed up. So, I'm here to try to figure out what you guys are trying to actually accomplish here by closing the bars at 1 o'clock. Because clearly it's not for the safety of the people. I think it's a crazy knee-jerk reaction of an unfortunate situation that happened. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Good morning, I'm Eric Schiller. I've run Gas Bars Grotto. We just had our 20th anniversary. 38 years in Ybor City. The last 20 years, I've spent every day, 7 days a week at Gas Bars Grotto. So I've seen a lot of things. So I think today's our lucky day because I can help you here. But please, listen. The thread through all these grisly tragedies, many that I've seen in the 38 years, the thread seems to be that 7th Avenue was closed when this happened. The guy that got knifed and they sliced his kidney and he died outside of the Blue Ship. These poor souls, others, when there's blood on 7th Avenue, it's normally because it's closed to vehicular traffic. Over the last 20 years, I've seen 2 or 3 or 4 waves of closing, not closing. I've been here several times. I've been published in the paper. I go to meetings. I do all this stuff, right? And the common thread is the closure of 7th Avenue. And why does that happen? Because in the police department, every few years they change the brass. And somehow, when the brass come up, nobody clues them in to what I'm saying, and I wouldn't expect that they would. But the idea, well, we'll put police cars with flashing lights on the side streets, and we'll close vehicular traffic to 7th Avenue. When they do that, they create an attractive nuisance. The kids that have no money can't participate in being in the clubs, all of a sudden have a place, they have a stage that is set for a tragedy. And it happens every single time. And it goes in waves. Again, when it's open, even young kids are smart enough not to step into traffic. So they keep moving on sidewalks. What you had here, according to my sources, is kids that faced off, and one kid did this, the guy thought he was going to do it, the next thing. There's no facing off on sidewalks when everybody's moving. So that is the solution. And I will tell anybody that wants to speak to me that we must keep the traffic moving on 7th Avenue all the time. Closing 7th Avenue is a bad idea. Okay, I wasn't going to talk about it because I wanted to focus on that single issue. But we already talked about the Child Protective Ordinance. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember or been in Ybor City long enough to remember that the Child Protective Ordinance went into effect in whatever year it was, and it did great. The problem was that when the police take a minor off the streets, like a 14-year-old, they own him. So they put him in a car, and that officer is not available for the rest of the night.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, next speaker, please state your name.
My name is Tom DeGeorge. I am president and GM of Crowbar in Ybor City. I'm here speaking on behalf of several Ybor businesses and employees. I spent an hour or so last night on the phone talking to a friend, Jim Peters. He is the founder of the Responsible Hospitality Institute. This is the group that leads the research and implementation of offices of nighttime economy out of California. He's familiar with our district. He's a big fan of Vince Pardo. I took his insight into great account when I tell you what I want to tell you today. I got to Tampa in 2001, where I took on the role of general manager of the Masquerade in the historic Ritz Theater. We closed in 2006, and after that, later that year, I opened my own business to pursue my dream of being a small business owner. I bought a home in East Ybor with my wife in 2010, who's a public school teacher, and that is our community, and we love Ybor City. Over the years, I've brought thousands of bands to Ybor City from all over the country and all over the world. Every one of them tells me how they are in love with our district and our community. When the pandemic hit, I did not think any of our businesses would survive. The past 3 years have been the absolute toughest I've ever dealt with, getting through operating under restrictions, dealing with angry public that didn't like regulations, having rules changed, and spotty enforcement was difficult. There was also a lot of societal problems going on. There was increase in violence around the country. Nobody wants violence in our community, and we spent many hours in city meetings trying to work with TPD and the city to drive this element out of our community. It's prevalent all over the country, and it's hard. We want our venues as safe as possible, so many of our venues use metal detectors, have bag check policies. These are all the things we should do to keep our venues and our communities safe. Our state has one of the most liberal gun laws in the country. It makes this problematic. A lot of people are carrying guns, so they leave them in their cars, sometimes in the back seats. And then you have opportunistic criminals and gang members that steal those guns, and we have more guns on the street and more guns in the hands of people who should not have them. We're on the verge of a real crisis that I think everyone in this room should want to solve. So that brings me to the closure proposal and some questions and thoughts. One, what effects will this have on the economy? Many of us are nowhere near where we were at the start of the pandemic. The rising cost of rents, people can barely pay their bills, and I think this would be detrimental to all these businesses. Are we currently enforcing the public laws we have on the books for our streets? I host about 300 concerts a year. I'm boots on the ground. I walk the streets of my community at night, and I get in my truck and I drive the side streets, and we have a no cruising ordinance right now, and the party in the street is prevalent. People are all over the streets, so I'd like to see the enforcement numbers there. I respect TBD. I wouldn't want their job right now. I wouldn't want to be stopping these people because, like I said, everybody's got guns on them, and how do we know who has what? Who are the nuisance establishments? Let's find out who those business owners are and who the landowner is, and if we have to, we should shut them down. And most importantly, does this solve our gun problem? The study on closing times is fragile. One thing we know is that gun violence is more prevalent in highly populated areas. It's going to shift to other areas if we just close at one, or it's going to happen at one.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Hi, good morning. I'm Mo Pickering, representing White Lie. I think everybody has touched on very important and value issues. Closing the bars at 1 a.m. What exactly does that do to help the gun violence? Until we investigate what we can all do better as a community to decrease violence in our city as a whole, things will never change. The police department should communicate with the Ybor community that works here, lives here, and also frequents the businesses. We know about the community more than anybody. Ms. Conley, I don't know where she's at, but my goodness, they should be talking to her. I don't know if you felt the love behind her, but she brings a lot to the table. I wouldn't go to a chef and ask them how to build a house. So why are we having people who know nothing about Ybor make the decisions? You can't change behavior without figuring out the root or the antecedent or the action. All you will have is just a negative outcome. So I leave you with this quote from Albert Einstein. The measurement of intelligence is the ability to change. So let's go about this change intelligently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please state your name.
Good morning. My name's Cassandra Hare. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa, Hillsborough County. I've worked in the district for over 20 years. What happened, we know, is a tragedy, and it should never have happened. What is going on in our district has not been portrayed to anybody. Not a single member of the council, not a single member of the mayor's office has come to Ybor City during our opening hours and spoken with us. For over 30 years, I have listened to business owners, hospitality workers in Ybor City about the city of Tampa pushing us aside, poo-pooing what's going on, and just ignoring us. We're tired of being ignored, right? Closing the bars early isn't going to do anything but hurt the wonderful people behind me. We're just now recovering from COVID, if we have it all. And we can't afford to have 20%, as he said earlier, of our income taken away from us. With that being said, shootings like this, incidents like this, will happen whether it is 3 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning. I can tell you a big problem that we are having are these private, unsecured parking lots where people congregate, where they loiter, they drink, and there are a lot of underage there. Unfortunately, I would wish that there was a representative from the City of Tampa Police Department here with us. But unfortunately, that's not the case. The officers that work in Ybor City on a daily basis are wonderful. They talk to us. They have even expressed they are having issues with their leadership pushing down their concerns about the district. What I would suggest and what I would hope that the City Council will do, Tampa Police Department will do, is come and talk to us. Spend a weekend in our bars, in our hotels, seeing what we see, learning what we learn, watching the wonderful people of Ybor City and our wonderful hospitality workers. I thank you all for listening to us.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Christy Gray. I have been a hospitality worker in Ybor for the last 4 years, between bartending, management, running Hotel Hyatt for a little bit, the bar program there. I have seen a lot in the last 4 years, even during COVID. When I saw what happened, I was taken aback. I personally was recently priced out of Tampa. I moved back home to central Pennsylvania, sadly after 10 years, because I could not afford to be a service industry worker in this town anymore with the inflation. And I'm sure that there are many bartenders behind me going, yep. I know a lot of people that are already leaving because they can't pay their bills with the rent that's happening and with prices going up. And now you're trying to take away a major source of income from us because of something that is unrelated. It just feels like such a very knee-jerk reaction to go, hey, this thing happened in Ybor. Oh, of course, it's Ybor. Let's close down the bars, let's just stop everything for a minute. That's never been reaction with any of the other shootings. We're not addressing the issue. We're just trying to pretend that this is going to be a solution, a fix. It feels like a way for the city to look like they're doing something when they continue to ignore the systematic problems. and the systemic root of everything that's been going on. So I would just ask that you look at the people that are actually going to be affected, the bar workers, the servers, security guards, everyone that makes a living really Thursday through Saturday night in Ybor. The inflation's getting so bad that a friend of mine is a general manager of a fine dining restaurant in Ybor, and then after his shift, he goes and bartends at Bradley's because he can't make ends meet for his 1-1 studio apartment in Ybor City. So, people are already struggling. Let's not make it worse. And all of us, we're already leaving in droves. If you close down Ybor at 1, you're going to continue to lose all your restaurant workers. And that means that the business owners behind me are going to struggle to find people. And then that's going to hurt them. And we've already lost a lot of businesses in Ybor this year, a lot of classic places that are already missed. Let's not do more of that. Let's not push everyone to Water Street, St. Pete. Also, when I moved down here, that's when St. Pete closed at 2 a.m. And what happened? Everyone got in their cars and drove to Tampa because Tampa was still open. Ybor is going to be the only place shut down at 1 a.m. People are going to get in their cars and they're going to drive to Soho. They're going to drive to South Tampa. They're going to do dangerous things. Let's not encourage that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, yes, sir, next speaker.
Per his request, I'm going to move this light for him because apparently it's
a
bit obnoxious. My name is Ashley. I'm a third-generation business owner here in Tampa, and as of this weekend, I will also be an Ybor City business owner. It really sounds like a quick email to that woman right there could have spared us all a lot of panic because this whole thing's unconstitutional apparently, and I'm not sure what we're down here arguing this entire thing. I'll move right into it. I'm getting really tired of using the word senseless around shootings. Shootings are full of sense. There's senses, all kinds of them. There's senses of rejection, there's senses of panic, there's senses of fear. There's so much sense in this particular one that a group of people was able to ensnare all the parties involved in it and pull out cell phones and watch children about to get into a physical conflict. I heard, apparently, that there was about 50 police officers in the vicinity. I can tell you the 30 feet of Ybor that has been a problem at 3 a.m. for 5, 10, 15, probably 20 years, and it is the 3 clubs back to back to back that go up for stories. So how it is that nobody has the sense where the most population of Ybor comes out and floods out to de-escalate a situation. This wasn't a random guy who just decided to kill people. This was something very preventable. You could read it so well that drunk idiots leaving clubs were like, this is going to be awesome. But we couldn't get police down there in time, and I'm not trying to, besmirch them at all, but like everyone else has said, what does closing early do if we're not going to, I worked in Ybor. I know exactly where the problems are going to start. You got 50 police, 7 blocks on 7th. You can do the math on how many cops you could have per block checking shit out. They're not there. As far as also, this shooting may prove to be entirely legal. Last I heard, 1 charge is on that dude, and it's second-degree murder. And if he plays stand your ground, even in the slightest as well as George Zimmerman did it, you're arguing that Ybor should shut down for something that in the state of Florida is perfectly legal, whether we like it or not. So you can take that into consideration as well, how that plays out in his trial. As far as what we're studying, that's kind of curious too, because nobody seemed to care when there were back-to-back shootings Super Bowl weekend in Ybor City. We didn't need to shut down the district for that and start studying shootings. We don't need to retroactively go back and start that. We're just going to, the hell with them, shut it all down. And to the other lady's point as well, as third-generation business owner, I cannot tell you one time a representative has walked into our businesses, ever. Nobody knows who you are. So I would say feel free to go ahead and finish lunch at the Columbia one day and take a stroll down the rest of 7th and meet people at Res and see how it's going. Pop into ODS on a Sunday night. Check out what is actually happening down there instead of getting all your information from wherever the hell you want to get it from. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Michael Womack. I have had the pleasure of working with a lot of you in a professional capacity, so just want to be clear, I'm addressing you as a person who frequents Ybor. I'm here to, voice my deep concern and firm opposition to the 1 a.m. curfew and any curfews for adults that may be implemented in the future as a result of the incident that happened on Sunday morning. As someone who was leaving Ybor at the time of the shooting, I believe that imposing restrictions would do more harm than good to the residents and small businesses in the area. As a member of the LGBTQ community, I also want to speak on the unique role that Ybor City plays in our lives. The gay bars are not just places to socialize, they're our community centers. They're where we come together to celebrate our diversity and find solace in a world that doesn't always represent us. They're also open late, with most of their revenue coming in between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. These establishments are integral to the fabric of our community and provide us with a safe and welcoming space where we can be ourselves. Instead of resorting to a curfew, I urge the council to explore the alternative solutions that are being discussed right now and target the root causes of the crime to keep some of the minors out of the Ybor, while supporting local businesses and allowing the LGBTQ community to continue thriving. I worry that the curfews for adults in any form will have long-lasting negative impacts on the livelihoods of many of the small businesses that you're hearing from today that have already struggled due to the incident and the ongoing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. I hope we can continue working together to find alternative solutions and keep Ybor City safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Please state your name.
Hi there. My name is Russell Simmons. I'm the general manager at Cigar City Cider and Mead in Ybor City on 15th Street. I'm also a victim of gun violence as a young man. I see that we're addressing many of the concerns with the curfew, with closing bars early. Guns are the fundamental cause of this issue. The acceptance of gun violence in our culture is a core component in this. It seems to be the issue that's too big to address in this setting. It's not the fault of business owners. It's not the fault of people that want to have a night out in Ybor. I appreciate that the council is trying to address these issues, and perhaps a curfew is something. Perhaps implementation of more metal detectors was in Disney Springs recently, and anyone who had entered Disney Springs was searched through a high-tech metal detector device. That might be hard to implement in Ybor, but something to consider. It's just a shame that we're overlooking the loss of life here. It is important to keep business open. It's my livelihood. I've been a resident in Ybor City for the last 3 years in the quarter off of Palm Avenue. I don't know if this is going to have an impact or a change on where we're at. I'm glad to see so many other members of the community here having a say, having an impact, wanting to make a change for the positive. I think that's the real reflection of the neighborhood, a sense of community, a place where people can go and feel together. I didn't have a prepared statement, and it's just an emotional time. I was walking down the street at 2 a.m., heading back to a hotel to stay at the Hyatt that evening, and just knowing that the next morning, seeing, the cleanup effort and then a Christmas tree being erected across the street, it's very difficult. And I appreciate the time, and I appreciate my fellow people from the neighborhood being here and having their moment and their say, and know that this community is going to stand together, that we are here for each other, and do want to see a positive impact. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please state your name.
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Dr. Jamaris Glenn, and I am one of the owners of 7th and Grove, as well as one of the owners of Roasted Madam Fortune, and thank you for your time. I think everybody's pretty much kind of put the nail in the coffin as far as how their feelings about everything that's going on, but I think we missed the mark when we talk about the 14-year-old that passed away, and we not mention his name. His name was Elijah Wilson, and he was 14 years old, and I'm not here to vilify a 14-year-old boy. I feel that he was a victim of circumstance. I feel that we as a community failed him. The educational system failed him. The police failed him. We have failed this young man. And to see that, these other businesses are being affected because of this, it was a senseless act of violence, and because of our own failures is just absolutely not okay. the last time I stood before you, I was fighting for my liquor license with COVID-19. And it's a shame that all these businesses have to consistently fight in Ybor every single time to try to have a thriving and successful business, to want to be a part of the American dream. And it's unfortunate that we're consistently policed and we're consistently targeted. My business is 100% Black owned, over 51% woman owned, LGBTQ owned. We hire a lot of, our management staff is under the age of 35. These are all young people of color who look like us, who we are managing and training and wanting them to one day be a part of and own their own restaurant, own their own bars. And, you know, to inflict an abatement or a curfew or whatever you want to call it is basically, you know, destroying their dreams because I would have to lay them off. I would have to lay off my dishwashers. We hire felons, single mothers. We hire people who are transgender. We hire the unhoused. And putting those curfews is a big strike to our labor. Because we've already suffered enough. We've suffered during COVID. We haven't even bounced back because of those COVID times with the restaurants and the bars. This summer, a lot of these restaurant owners and bars will tell you was brutal. You know, even we've already paid the price. That Sunday of the shooting, Ybor was a ghost town. Ybor is still a ghost town, and we're still bouncing back. It's going to take us at least 6 weeks to bounce back. So we've suffered enough, and we don't need another gut punch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Tanner Armstrong. I'm just a citizen of Tampa. I've lived here for about 20 years. I actually worked at Ybor last year through October all the way through Gasparilla, so I've seen how the police response is in that area, and it simply disgusts me. It's appalling. They don't do their effing job at the end of the day. They sit on the street corners, post on the corners, waiting to respond and waiting for shots to be fired, waiting for fights to happen, to then respond to them. I've lived there in the city here, downtown, for 5 years, and I've watched this happen for 5 years. I've worked on the Strip for this entire period of time, through October, all the way through Gasparilla. I've seen how the police handle these situations properly and improperly, with my own 2 eyes. So it's appalling. And I find it extremely appalling that y'all, and by extension the mayor, think this is a gun issue. It is a gang violence issue. This was a confrontation between 2 groups of identified gang members. Do your job. I figured it out by reading Facebook comments, okay? The 14-year-old had a gun on him. He was going to brandish a firearm on the other guy shot him. That's stand your ground law, like one of the other guys mentioned previously. Not to vilify anyone. Again, like one of the other previous speakers said, his parents failed that poor child. Not only his community, his parents failed him, all right? And by extension, the community, and by extension, this government. And it's disgusting. And it's disgusting that I have to sit here and look at blood on my streets, and I have to walk these streets for no good reason. No good reason. No reason for this blood spread. No reason. It can be easily prevented. Simply having a police presence on the Strip. Not on the corners, not on the corner of every single block, walking up and down the Strip. Put them back on the horses. They were on the horses for years. No one's going to start squaring up and fighting when there's a couple horses around. They're terrified. They think they're going to get trampled. They might think they'll get shot. That's a pretty good deterrent. So, you know, and there's a couple other things I'd like to address here too while I still have some good minute here to burn. I prepared a good thing, but really I just kind of wanted to go off the dome here. So, really, why should I and other citizens and business owners be punished because of the actions of children whose parents, frankly, don't discipline their children? And the response of a police force that sits back and observes, waiting to intervene on a crime to be committed, rather than do their job, which I pay them to do with my taxes, to prevent these crimes and atrocities in the blood spill. All right? So my closing message basically is to reiterate once again that what happened in Ybor was an accountability issue. It's not a gun issue. All right? It's a policing issue, a parenting issue, and this community needs to come together and figure out a real solution to this. Not some unconstitutional BS by some lady who's still texting on her phone right over here, who can't even bother to look up from her cell phone and pay attention to the speakers right now. Yes, yeah, okay, I'm calling you out. Look up, look at me, yeah, appreciate it. You know, some respect, like what I'm doing for all y'all, looking all y'all right in the eyes, telling you how I feel as a community citizen, someone who pays their taxes and employs all of you. So maybe listen to us. That'd be cool. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Please state your name.
Hello, my name is Chris Humphreys. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and our condolences to those who have been affected by this loss. I have been a bartender and manager at the James Joyce Irish Pub for just shy of 10 years. The James Joyce Irish Pub has independently operated a successful business since the 1990s, nearly 12 years at its current location on 8th Avenue, another 15 years before that on 7th. The owners have routinely and regularly provided their employees with a safe haven and the opportunity to make a decent living. I have closed the James Joyce Irish Pub down 4 nights a week, every week for the last 10 years at 3 a.m., often by myself, often with security, always without incident. I also learn my living from the hours of 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. and later. I'm here to speak on behalf of my restaurant and others in the area to explain how shutting down an entire industry for a few inconvenient yet key hours will fail to solve any problem and only create new ones. No other areas in town will be affected, only Ybor singled out. Yet violence occurs in other parts of town and other parts of the country at all hours of the day. There is no time clock for when stupidity can occur. I hereby implore you to work with local business owners and workers and not punish them, to work alongside those in the industry to understand our camaraderie instead of imposing equally senseless rules against it, cutting into our pocketbooks and the pocketbooks of local business. Did you know that workers from all over Ybor City bars, shops, and restaurants have established a social media line of communication where we can warn each other of customers who have had one cocktail too many, customers who may have skipped on a tab, or customers who might be looking for problems? In other words, most of us are already working from the ground up to solve these problems on our own. All we need is a little assistance and not some state of siege policy where doors are forced to close. How do you think shutting down things early will play in the media? Most of us in the industry take our work seriously. At our pub, we attend the quarterly classes on how to properly handle alcohol and are aware of how it changes behavior amongst those who imbibe it. I'm certain we're not the only establishment in the area who does so. Closing bars arbitrarily 2 hours earlier is no answer to the problem that currently faces us. For the longest time, my boss and I have wondered why the city has done so little to promote its historic wonder, Ybor City. Instead of promoting the area as a tourist destination, the city decides to move parades out of the area, further hurting businesses and those who work within them. I wear this shirt today that reads Defend the Joyce because that's what we do. Our owners insist on giving 50% of their meals to all police officers in uniform. The officers know that, serving them late night meals, which is why they're there all the time, which is why when we have an issue, we know who to call. I have countless police officers' personal phone numbers on my cell phone because they themselves have given them to me. Closing establishments early brings of conceding to the problem rather than resolving it and brings bad press to an area that already suffers it, not to mention stifling local business and those they employ. Any studies you conduct will find that. At 1 a.m. when you are all sleeping, we are out working. Any decision to stop that hinders growth rather than helps it. Me and so many others that I work with are open to sustaining the sense of community. We just need some common sense to go along with it.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, next speaker. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Yes, I am attorney Candace Colucci, and I am Tampa raised. I went to high school in Tampa, and I also work in Tampa. I have a law firm here, and then my family also happens to own Club Piranha, which is a club that is in Ybor. I understand that this proposal stems from a tragic incident that occurred before 3 a.m. this past weekend, in which 2 individuals had lost their life at an altercation involving, in some form or fashion, a gang violence, where numerous of those members were 14 and 15 years of age. While we deeply mourn the loss of those individuals, it is imperative to address this proposed movement as it's constitutionally and the equitable perspective. First and foremost, it is essential to recognize that Club Piranha, as well as other nightclub establishments, have operated with the utmost care and responsibility in accordance with the law. We diligently adhere to security measures and cooperate with local authorities to maintain a safe environment for our patrons. The unfortunate incident in question was in no way the fault of our establishment or the establishments around. Patrons of our establishment, or we have been proactive in addressing any concerns to prevent such occurrences. Specifically, our club and other clubs in the area have countless security guards, and they pat down every member that comes inside of those establishments. It is my belief that the proposed changes to closing the time infringes upon the equal protection rights of the business owners and the nightclub industry. There is no justifiable reason to limit our operating hours solely because of an isolated unfortunate incident. Such a measure unfairly punishes reasonable business owners and their employees who earn an income there. It's important to note that our nightclub, along with others, are only open from around 10 p.m., with the bulk of the income and the attendance being between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. So in essence, the proposal that we've heard about closing at 1 a.m. would actually destroy the ability of the nightclub owners to make any income. I implore you to take any income that is considerable. I implore you to take a closer look at the potential consequences as to this proposal, as it not only proposes a severe threat to the viability of Ybor businesses, but it also fails to address the root cause of the issues. We are open to engaging in any proactive dialogue, to cooperating with the city to ensure the safety of our community while preserving the integrity of our businesses in Ybor. Together, we can find a more equitable and reasonable approach. For example, the city attorney did mention the Section 1439, which was an Ybor City child protection ordinance curfew that was allegedly passed in 2004, but as the city attorney mentioned, had not been enforced. Why? Why? The evidence shows the teens that fighting were at 14 and 15 years of age. Had that been enforced, maybe that would have made a difference. We are here today to work with you, but we would ask that any closure that was at 1 a.m. would severely be detrimental to the business owners and all of the employees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once we finish the folks that are in line here to speak, we have one registered speaker, and then we have to take a recess because we have 30 more people downstairs that'd like to speak. Oh, no, after we finish the folks in the room. Go ahead, sir, go ahead. Please state your name.
No, you go ahead, I'm an old man.
Sure. Please state your name, sir.
My name is Christopher Lenahan, and I'm here as a stakeholder who's invested heavily in Ybor over the last 5 years. First off, I want to thank TPD, as we have seen clear evidence that they were the ones running into the fire. I also want to thank them for changing hats so quickly and turning into first responders and applying first aid and saving lives. They did an absolutely amazing job that night. Next, I want to thank the stakeholders in Ybor, the developers, Mr. Shaw, and also Mrs. Henderson, about your passion and caring for Ybor and the safety of Ybor. I know that you were recently on a ride-along with TPD in Ybor. Thank you so much for being a part of that, and we really appreciate you coming and coming into the neighborhood while we're there, while we're operating. Thank you. This is a tragedy, plain and simple. It's nothing more. But let's talk about the facts. The facts are that adding a punitive punishment to the bars does nothing about holding the criminals and the criminal gang members liable for the actions that they have taken and the tragedy that they've brought to this community. The senselessness of a 14-year-old with a handgun in Ybor at 3 a.m. in the morning is undescribable. We as a business should and have to work with TPD and the city of Tampa, hand in hand, to make lasting changes. But that's not what I'm here to ask you for. I'm not here to complain. I'm here for solutions. I'm suggesting solutions. Number one, I'd like to install video cameras, more video cameras, on the outside of the bars and nightclubs and businesses up and down Ybor. Anonymity is the biggest defense of a criminal. We will then put monitors on the inside of the windows that show people their faces as they walk by our businesses. Number two, the curfew for juveniles. Thank you so much. That's what we need. We need the ability to enforce that. Lastly, a gang task force that specifically targets these criminal gang elements that are illegally carrying firearms and using them for ill-conceived intentions like occurred. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. All right, next speaker, please state your name.
Hi, my name is Tatiana Brown, and I am the general manager at 7th and Grove in Roast Deli and Madam Fortune on 7th Avenue. And first, we would like to, address the concerns that we are here for, the tragedy of the 14-year-old and the 20-year-old. We are aware how sad that is, and, we show empathy for that. But we also would like to again, address the elephant in the room in reference to the 1 a.m. shutdown. I have over 100 employees. And with me having over 100 employees, I would have to get rid of at least 50% of my employees to actually agree to the terms that we would actually be under. Which in this case is not fair. It is approaching the holidays, and we would actually be putting a hurdle in 50% of our employees' pockets while doing so. Also, I do want to go ahead and address the fact that, 7th and Grove in Roast Deli, we actually have a contract with TPD for off-duty officers where we actually pay them to actually come out late at night to actually, patrol the streets of where we are. Most of the time they come, most of the time they don't show up. And then the ones that do come, they let us know that they're there. We actually feed TPD actually for free. I have a great relationship with TPD. Instead of actually the curfew, what we would like to do is see if we can come to a solution where the business owners can actually know the duties and the roles of TPD while they're there. From my understanding, they were actually there around the incident, and the incident still went on. We actually saw TPD step up after the fact. But if we actually had some sort of duties or, for them to be more proactive, then these type of things would actually happen. So again, what we would actually want to do is see if we can come together with business owners to get more of roles and responsibilities for TPD, or maybe address them or update them or whatever they are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, please state your name.
Good morning. Keela McCaskill, native here, advocate in the city of Tampa. Although I'm standing, I'm definitely going to touch on the incident. But for quite some time, I worried about you guys. You see me all the time. I probably should be considered, I don't know what you call it, volunteer member council. But I was worried about you doing your job. Many of you are very involved in your community. You're very involved in terms of what happens in our neighborhoods. And for quite some time, I watched us lose one of our greatest council members ever, Councilman Dean Felder. And then right behind that, there were attacks on some of our city council members. And I know today, in light of what's happened, is not the time, but it's relevant. We lost one of my other favorite council members, Councilman Goods. And today I'm excited because it's over. That situation is over. I hope that we never have another knee-jerk reaction to something that happens and waste taxpayer dollars spending $200,000 against one of our council members that are public servants. It's over, and I'm thankful for the judge that saw it necessary to deem it over. So congratulations to that former council member. My heart aches for the family and all that's impacted, and even these businesses today. And as an individual that's looking at it, I've told you several times that we've been deemed a great city. Forbes said we're one of the greatest cities to live. I believe as a result of that, we have an opportunity to do something special. We're a leader as far as I'm concerned. Other growing cities are also going to watch how we handle this matter. Being zoned in on a time, I don't think is necessary. I think it's bigger than an actual time in terms of a cutoff. What we know, what I suspected, was that there had been no conversations with these businesses. There's been no conversation with the residents. There's been no conversation or enough conversation with the individuals as stakeholders in this area, maybe one or two, but not the majority. I encourage a collaborative approach. I encourage something strategic. I encourage something very comprehensive, because I guarantee you a time is not it. I was at a neighborhood meeting where one store in East Tampa on 34th and Lake had 1,000 calls and 33 arrests, all majority gun violence related shootings. And from this council, I heard, well, they're not going to close that store down. Well, what are they going to do? Because they never suggested a hour reduction. They never added force. They didn't do anything. But now this is in East Tampa, Ybor, which gives us an opportunity to do something creative for all of the areas that could be impacted with gun violence. And it'll start in Ybor. I want to see the collaboration and not just the discussion. How you get with these businesses, make it public, do something creative so that we can set a trend for what happens when it happens again. There will be more gathering, which results in a fight, which could potentially result in a shooting. What are we going to do? We need a plan. We need to be able to execute that plan throughout the city. When they go to Soho, I think we'll be here all week. We need to come up with a plan now so we can set the tone for later. Thank you for listening.
Very much. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Hi, everyone. Christian Leon. I've been a resident of Ybor now for almost 10 years. I think it's really important to keep in mind that how special Ybor City is. I think we all know that as a part of town, as a neighborhood, and as a district, or however it is, Ybor City is our greatest asset. It has such incredible, beautiful history, and now it's transitioned to become a place for a vibrant nightlife, a place that attracts people. There's tourists that come during the day. So I think that when we zoom out and we take a look at Tampa in general and the future of Tampa, this is a very, very special place that we really have to be very thoughtful about how we approach this. So one thing that really concerns me is the optics. And it's sad to me to have people around think that Ybor City is a dangerous place to go. And so I took a little time to do some research and to do some homework. And I think it's important to follow what Councilman Carlson said earlier about asking some hard questions, because until those questions are answered, I think you won't have the information you need to really make a thoughtful decision on how to move forward. So one thing that I learned that was surprising was that, you know, if you look at America in general, out of 450 mass shootings that have happened since 2006, almost 300 of those, 294 of those have been in homes. And outside of residential mass shootings, only 12% of them occur at businesses. And those businesses aren't clubs and bars. I mean, maybe half of those, let's say, they don't break it down, but we can assume that less than 10% happen at clubs and bars. So we shouldn't have that reaction to say, okay, the problem is the nightlife and what's going on. To zoom into Ybor, I looked at the data from 2023 on the Tampa Police's map, and there are 5 incidences of weapons being discharged. Out of those 5 instances, only 2 of them happened before 11 o'clock at night. So it's not necessarily a late night problem, even though I do know that there's obviously a lot of things happen later in the evening, and something to think about. But that means if there have been 5 weapons discharges in Ybor over the last, you know, we're now at November 2nd, so it's 305 days. That's 1% of nights there's been a weapon discharge in Ybor. So I think it's important for the optics from all of us involved here, thinking about how we project Ybor City to the rest of the city, and to the state, and to the country, that it's a very safe place relatively. I mean, I know that a lot goes on, and there's police presence, and there's a lot of activity for sure, but relatively, it's extremely safe. So I think it'd be interesting to look at comparisons. And the other thing too is, you know, as we move forward and think about how we want Tampa to evolve and what we want Tampa to be to the rest of the country, let's keep in mind also that the things that have made cities really attractive for visitors have been places, and it sounds really, I don't want to diminish it, but places that are fun. I mean, it's easy to say Austin, it's easy to say Nashville, that really resonates in a certain way with everybody.
Thank
we
you
want
very
Tampa
much.
to be in that vein.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please state your name.
Good afternoon, council. It's afternoon. My name is Victor DeMaio. My address is up the street here, 1205 North Franklin Street. I'm here representing Coyote Ugly and several other businesses in Ybor, Dirty Shame, the Cubic Club, Long Ash. Joanna Olson, the owner of Dirty Shame, Coyote, couldn't be here because her father just passed away and she's attending a funeral in Destin. And she also wants to send her deepest thoughts and prayers and regrets for the victims who passed away this weekend in Ybor City. You know, my mom and dad were born in Ybor City with midwives, and they were married at Old PH Church in Ybor City. My dad was buried at Old PH Church in Ybor City. I was fortunate to be born in a fancier place in Ybor City called the Central Triano Hospital, which is no longer there. But to me, Ybor City is the heart and soul of Tampa. And even all this bad publicity that happened because of what took place, Ybor is already going to suffer. And yesterday, by chance, I called an old friend of mine named Joe Redner, who we all know. And Joe told me about an incident that happened to him. By the way, he's fought cancer 4 times, and he's got a little bit come back now. So prayers go out to him as well. But he told me the city did try to shut him down in a place down the street here on Kennedy under Mayor Greco's administration, and he sued for economic damages and won. So to put that in perspective, if you shut down Coyote from 1 to 3 a.m., our economic damages will be about $500,000. And that's not counting the waiters and waitresses and bartenders who work there, who between that 1 and 3 a.m. period make on average about $200 a shift extra during that one period. So there's a lot of, we employ hundreds of people over the 20 years they've been in business. We wand everybody in. We cooperate with the police. We pay for 2 security police to be on site in advance to be there. And you can look at our record. It's clean. We run a very tight ship. And we don't, put up with anything at there. And, sad what happened, but I just don't think that the answer of shutting down Ybor at 1 is going to create a problem, because now where are those people going to go? If you said they're going to be heading down to maybe Soho, and you think you've solved one problem, and you're going to create a huge problem somewhere else. And Soho's already suffering with a lot of craziness that goes on with McDittons and a lot of other things. So I would listen to the advice of your city attorney and be very cautious about shutting down businesses and what the economic damages may be, because you may be biting off a lot more than you can chew. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Mr. Robinson, please state your name.
Joe Robinson, first of all, item 81, I'm all in approval of item 81 going forward with whatever the city wants to do. I agree with the approach that they're doing with that. Item 8, I appreciate the money that the state attorney, the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, and surrounding jurisdictions are going to deal with technology to improve understanding criminal activity, improving the use of data, and crime gun intelligence centers. So I agree with that item. However, having been involved with the conning of Ybor City as an entertainment district back in the 90s with the very first $1 million club called Kids Rock Cafe with Al Picayo, architect, Ernie Hare, Kenny Soul, and Dr. McClendon, orthopedic surgeon, when you could roll a bowling ball down 7th Avenue, Charlie, remember that statement, and hit nobody. They wet zone 30 wet zones in less than 3 months. Including Ms. Robinson got one from Blue Shirt, wet zone, wet zone, wet zone, wet zone, because it was all vacant and nobody was there. Well, here we are 30-some years later, and here's what we got. So I want to thank you, Mrs. Henderson. Thank you, Darrell Shaw. Thank you, Mothers Against Violence. Thank you, City Attorney. Thank you, Ybor City property owners. Thank you, Ybor City property owners. Thank you, everybody in here. But remember, property rights, legal rights, limitation on liability, curfews, emergencies, local emergency, youth ordinances, and the like. Listen, thank y'all for at least getting it stirred up, Ms. Henderson. Thank you, Darrell, for getting it stirred up. Now we got everybody in here, including Big Papa, Joe Capitano. Now, if he in here with his cane, you know it's serious. So let's just try to work this out. Do not violate people's civil rights. Do not violate property rights. There is a solution. It's not going to be happy, and it's not going to benefit everybody in the room. It ain't going to happen today. It ain't going to happen tomorrow, and it ain't going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years. But at least you got attention to this issue, and thank you, media and press, for covering whatever you're covering. To get it out there. So there's no answer today. There's a lot of talking today, and you got a lot of work to do up there, City Council and legal staff. So let's get to work, because I got somewhere else to go call the school board. I'll see y'all later.
That's right. All right, before we go to Mr. Randolph, here's a suggestion to council. After Mr. Randolph speaks, he's virtual. We take a quick recess to get the 30 people that are downstairs, according to my legislative aide. 5 or 6 want to speak. We take that public comment. We open item 60. There was a request at this because it's people from the United States government. We hear that hearing, and then we go to lunch. Okay, and when we come back from lunch, we kick it off with the chief of police, who was at a police memorial event, and we'll be here and we'll continue this discussion. So at this time, Mr. Randolph, if you're on line, if you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes, sir. Please state your name.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Randolph, and I'm with the West Tampa CDC. I want to start off by sending my prayers out to the victims of the incident that happened in Ybor City. I also want to praise those heroes that participate in helping those victims. I specifically want to thank the civilians that show that Tampa's best by jumping in and doing what they did. But the fact of the matter is that the incident that happened in Ybor City is not isolated. According to the FBI, since 2020, the number of guns and violence has gone up. In fact, in 2020, the FBI reported that we saw the largest number of guns purchased in the nation. Also in 2020, according to the CDC, we saw the largest number of people killed by gun violence. There are approaches that we can use throughout the United States to stop this senseless murder. One is called Safe Street. This Safe Street model looks at hiring individuals from the streets that have street creds. They've been on the dark side, now they're on the right side. These individuals intervene and stop violence in the neighborhood. For example, a person will call in and say, Johnny and Billy is in a beef. I know it's going to lead to a bad thing. This person doesn't want to call the police because of the so-called snitch policy, but they will call this company. What these people do in turn is go out, squash that beef between those two individuals before it escalates. They act as mediators, and they train in violent prevention. They also train in terms of mental health. The other thing they do is they actually walk the streets and begin to talk to people on the streets and provide those people with the necessary services. What's important about this is that they're respected in the hood. So people will respect them in terms of putting down that gun. They do a lot of outreach. I want to thank the councilwoman. First, that she attended one of our meetings. She saw what's going around the nation in terms of violent intervention from Chicago to New York. On November the 20th, we plan to do another follow-up meeting to talk about how do we stop the violence, and more importantly, what's being done around the country. We should not blame parents. That young guy that was killed in Ybor City, 14, his father lost 2 kids. It's not him. This is the addiction of the streets. Unless we solve the problem in the streets, we can continue to have this senseless violence. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Randolph. We're going to take a 5-minute recess because we have all the people that are coming from the second floor. If you're going to leave the room and you want to watch the meeting, you're also not allowed. You can go to the second floor. There's a bunch of TVs down there, and you'll see everything here. But we'll be in recess for 5 minutes to bring those folks up. About 5 or 6 want to speak, and then we'll continue. right, we are back. Let's have roll call, please.
Carlson. Here. Hurtak. Here. Glendening. Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Miranda. Here. And Maniscalco.
Here. All right, we'll continue public comment. I know we have some new faces. If you wish to speak at this time, please come on up. If you'd like to make a line on this side of the room, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name. Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Ivan Rivera. I want to thank you all for your time and your day. I know these are long days for you. And this is a big topic that we're discussing. I've seen the recess. I've been watching online. I was here at 9 a.m. And waited, and then had to work. But first, I want to start by saying and introduce myself a little bit and give some background on me for those who don't know me. I live in Ybor City. I live in VM Ybor and Ybor Heights. I have served as the Neighborhood Association President for VM Ybor for years. I carried us through the pandemic. I have worked to improve and increase the safety of the neighborhood. And when I speak of Ybor City, I speak of more than just 7th Avenue. I speak of the 5 registered neighborhood associations in Ybor City. And this whole thing is heartbreaking because of the way the media portrays Ybor City, the long history of Ybor City. And I have worked alongside community leaders for years to make this community a safer community. I do not want to see the business owners in my community be penalized for something that is plaguing the United States. It's something that's happening on every corner of America. And I'm not here just to voice this concern. I'm here to be able to pitch and provide what I believe are real community-based solutions that's going to take both efforts on behalf of the community and the municipality. And so I want to run through these now with the time that I have. The first thing that I want to suggest is one of the victims was a 14-year-old. There was no reason for a 14-year-old to be on 7th Avenue at 2:30 in the morning. I think that's something that we got to consider instilling some type of regulation. On behalf of our business owners and the police department, the minute that a minor underage person is on 7th Avenue, that's something that needs to be addressed. The next thing is, I'm drawing a blank, but See Something, Say Something campaign. It's something that I've seen done in high metropolitan cities like New York, Washington, D.C. People are out there with their friends. They know who's armed. They know who's carrying a gun. And now with the permitless carry laws that we have in our state, it's important that if someone knows that someone could be a hazard to the public, that gets reported, alerted. The next thing is, in Ybor, we have these unaccounted large events, unmarketed large-scale events that happen, like Halloween. Obviously, the Super Bowl came by, and that's the last remembered shooting that I have in my mind that happened in Ybor City was during the Super Bowl. It's something that I felt was mishandled, mismanaged, because there's large crowds that gets drawn in Ybor City, but they're unmarketed. We're not telling people come to Ybor and party.
Unmuted.
You know, so I would love to submit a letter. I'm going to be submitting that on behalf of the neighborhood associations. I'm working on getting approval on behalf of the several boards throughout the registered neighborhoods. You'll be receiving that from me along with the chief of police and the mayor. I'm going to be asking for your support on the full court approach we're going to take. I believe that we can find solutions and make our city safer. I ask that once you receive those, that you receive it well.
Yes, sir. And your name was Ivan Rivera,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, he said it at the beginning. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name if you'd like to speak.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Felicia Sages, and I'm one of many that work and own a business in Ybor City. Some say they aren't here to complain, but I couldn't be more of the opposite. I'm here to point fingers, and I'm pointing them right at you. What happened on Saturday, October 29th, is beyond unfortunate, but that misfortune has nothing to do with the businesses of the Ybor City District. That nefarious illegal act was caused by parental neglect and lack of law enforcement in the inner city. This was a planned, premeditated meetup of a 22-year-old and a 14-year-old minor because it was walking distance from where they were residing. Those kids could have walked anywhere in any direction and committed these heinous acts. It doesn't matter what time you close these bars down. People who are planning to commit a premeditated crime will commit it no matter what the circumstances are. An article written July 2023 from the Tampa Police Department website said crime with a firearm has gone down 23%, but juvenile crime is up 21%. There are no curfews enforced for minors and no penalty for negligent parents or parental guardians, which is the root cause of these reoccurring issues. And we need more funding and more support for our Tampa Hillsborough County law enforcement. Now, we the workers and owners of Ybor City are being punished by restrictions for something that was out of our control. We are not to blame, and we should be allowed to continue working and operating the way we have been since we opened 9 years ago. Ybor City is one of 3 historical cities in the state of Florida, and its potential is endless, but it's constantly facing setbacks due to negligence on official and political levels. If you're restricting Ybor City, then you should restrict all bars and businesses that serve alcohol that are in the Tampa City limits. Our attorney said that this is discrimination and expect a lawsuit if you pursue forward. I agree 100% with what Ms. Kalia McCaskill said earlier on the stand. Start hearing the people that voted you into the seats that you are sitting in. Thank you, council.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Michael Barnes, known by most as Mike Deluxe. I live in Ybor City. My business is based in Ybor. I've been in Tampa for 30-something years now. Ybor I have a love affair with. And one thing I've noticed over the years is whenever there's an incident that happens in Ybor that is a high level of violence, it's never carried out by the people who live in Ybor City and the people who work in Ybor City. So I don't see any value of us individuals being penalized for the acts of those outside who don't bring any value to the city. And that's pretty much it. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Rex Cacciatore, and I'm almost a lifetime resident of Tampa, Florida. And I just wanted to speak against the proposed closure of the Ybor City bars at 1 a.m. Because as a patron of the Ybor City establishments, I feel that you're punishing law-abiding citizens for something that a couple of criminals did. And that's extremely unfair. I don't go out very often, but when I do like to celebrate, and I have planned to come to Ybor on New Year's Eve, and now that this proposal has come up, I'm considering altering my plans to either drive or travel to another location to celebrate that. That's just an example. I just think that this is a terrible idea. You're punishing those that had nothing to do with the incident that happened this past Saturday, early Sunday morning. And I feel that this should not go through, and that I'm considering not voting for any of the council for even considering this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. Yes, sir.
Peace. Thank you. Good afternoon. Afternoon or morning. I'm not sure yet.
Afternoon.
Thank you, council, for your time, and thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank the creator first and foremost, and I want to thank everyone here. I'm Guillermo Perez III.
Thank you, sir.
I am a local artist, and I own an art gallery in Ybor City on 7th called Marcolinas. I live in Ybor too. I love Ybor a lot. I got my big start here in Ybor. And as an artist, I think, first of all, I'm grateful to all who are here, because everybody's here because you care. One way or another, you care. And thank you. And, you know, I would like to call on just a bit of attention to the healing power of art in our communities, in our population. You know, Ybor City has a beautiful ecosystem, and it's perfect for global travel. It's perfect for bringing an affluent crowd who is here to shop art. A lot of those people that work at these bars and these clubs, you know, the employees, not the owners, you know, the employees buy art in my gallery. You know, I haven't seen the owners yet, you know, but the employees, their people buy art in my gallery. They're hardworking money. They spend it to buy art as much as they can and support us. You know, and because of them, these type of things are taking finances away from a striving artist. Ybor City has a beautiful, beautiful community of artists, great up-and-coming artists, very talented, lifelong artists. And we have an opportunity to use this opportunity to, you know, turn this around and use art as the way to fix it. That is a solution in many ways. You know, I'm not a politician. I'm not, you know, that's all for you guys to figure it out, and thank you for your work. But, you know, I just want to call on because it hasn't been mentioned. It's all about being finances, and artists are more than a decimal point. You know, these are the people who are working on the doors. They're serving the the bartenders, the security men, the servers, you know, you name it. The high majority of these people are very talented artists, and they deserve a chance for us to turn this around and bring more people to Ybor. You know, create a situation where it's comfortable and it's fun. Tampa TPD did a great job, and they're doing a great job, and thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am, you're the next speaker. Please state your name.
Siobhan Cusimano.
Say it again.
Siobhan Cusimano.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I just wanted to come and address the fact that this closure, if you guys do it, is going to affect more than just business owners and bartenders in Ybor. I'm 100% not discounting that. That is part of the reason why I'm here, is to stand with the people who make it possible for me to have a job. I work for a distributor, and they are already suffering right now. So I've already seen a decrease in sales from most of the bars and restaurants in Ybor, and that's a sad thing. It's a beautiful community that was very accepting to me when I first moved here, and I don't want to see anything happen to it. But the one thing that was not addressed, and I was here from the start, is the fact that this is a very fragile ecosystem. Obviously, you have artists being affected, but you also have all of the sales reps for distributors. You have supplier representatives who, if bars and restaurants are shut down and they're losing their revenue, then that's affecting us as well. So I just ask that you take that into consideration when you make this decision and ask yourself, is this going to actually fix the problem? And take a look at the amount of damage you could possibly be doing to a very large community within the hospitality industry before you make that final decision.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ms. Pointer, please state your name.
Stephanie Pointer. I didn't have any inclination to talk about this today, but my neighbors are here. My neighborhoods are here. And those neighbors, whether they're still here or not, have presented to you that this is not a good idea. And they've presented to you many, many reasons why. And I, you know, I taught middle school I taught 8th graders for 6 years of my life. So I know what a 14-year-old mentality is like. And it's really not good. Remember, we're dealing with people whose frontal lobes were developing. They have much the same mentality as drunk people. They forget the next day. But I think it's really important to listen to the neighbors. I think it's really important to remember that we don't have all the facts, period. We don't know what happened, period, because the facts have not been revealed to everybody here. So making a decision today is very premature. I mean, extremely premature. And when we've got all these neighbors who are telling you, and I mean, I worked in the bar industry for many years. I was a waitress. I was a bartender. And they're suffering already because people aren't coming to Ybor because they're afraid they're going to get shot because some kids came up in cahoots with one another and decided that's where they were going to meet. Now, did they have any business being there? Absolutely not. And you know what? Stephanie Pointer won't be there either, because if I'm up at 3:45, it's because I got up to go to the bathroom, not because I haven't went to bed yet. Okay? But we need to remember that these folks are already gonna suffer because people think Ybor's not safe. And reality is, the reason why Ybor is not safe is because of two people who probably didn't belong there to start with. And when we think about the big picture of life and kids not being where they're supposed to be, they make really, really dumb decisions. Their frontal lobes are developing. Up until you're 24, your frontal lobe is developing. So for us as adults to make a decision like that without taking all these things into consideration is not a smart thing to do. And of course, I came here today to talk about the credit card charges, and please charge credit card charges to the people who are using their credit cards instead of the citizens of Tampa. And maybe we could take some of that $4 million or $8.5 million over the last 2 years that we've spent and invest in mental health education, more education for parenting, and making sure that parents understand that just because their kids look like they're grown at 14 doesn't mean that they are grown, and doesn't mean that they're going to make good choices. That's why we have to be broken records and tell them the same thing over and over and over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, next speaker. Are you the last speaker, sir? If there's nobody else that is going to speak, he will be the last speaker. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Casey Ellison. I am a business owner in Ybor City as well as a property owner in Ybor City. I was involved in Hotel Haya, the development of Hotel Haya. We are headquartered in Ybor City. Ybor City is a special place. It's our only true urban neighborhood that is original and has the true soul of being there as long as it has. It's a major asset to this community, and we need to do whatever it takes to save that asset for the greater good of the community. And what we've asked, I think what's being asked here today is that we study ways to take action to stop what's happening there now, which is Ybor City has turned into a giant parking lot with loitering at a level that is pretty shocking. We've been talking about it for years. Nothing's happened. So it's time. We've reached a turning point. Unfortunately, this horrible incident occurred. But we, as leaders in the community, you as the city council, we implore you to take action and to study the things that Gwen was thoughtful enough to put out there and to lead. It's her district. We're proud for her to take this on, and we're here to support you guys in any way we can. We do support the stuff that, or the actions that were included in Gwen's memo, but we also heard the community today. So I think we do need to study this. We need to study all of the options, and we need to get it right. So thank you for taking on this task. I can only imagine it's a big burden, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment. Okay. At this time, as I mentioned earlier, no. May I have a motion to open all public hearings?
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. All right, we're going to go to item number 60. 60. We have representatives here. Yes, ma'am?
Good morning, Council. Emma Gregory, Legal Department. Thank you very much for hearing this item immediately after public comment. We have some representatives with us. We have Ms. Chris Lister from the DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency under the DoD. Mr. John Sprinkle is also from the Defense Logistics Agency. We have Mr. Tony Rodriguez from the base, and then we also have Brian Strayer. He is a consultant with the federal government. So we're here for the second reading of a proposed franchise ordinance. Section 22-4 of the code requires that we put in this franchise ordinance in this way. This project is proposed, this franchise ordinance would allow the Defense Logistics Agency and the federal government to complete a project that they've been working on for a long time to move a pipeline that supplies MacDill Air Force Base out of a wetland and into a portion of unimproved right-of-way in South Grimmer Street. So just here for your consideration, and we have our representatives here should you have any questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes, sir, Councilman Miranda.
Although we believe every word you said, I want them to put it on the record so that way it's codified.
Okay, sure.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
All right,
Sprinkle.
sir, if you'd like to speak on, just describe what this item is.
So we're relocating 2 receipt pipelines from the Port of Tampa to MacDill Air Force Base. And currently one of them is out of service due to corrosion anomalies that we discovered back in 2013. And so the pipeline's been out of service since then, and we've been working on it. And I hired Mr. Strayer to help us design alternatives to solve this problem. And we met with the City of Tampa attorneys and real estate division, and they asked us, is there any way we could get out of that environmentally sensitive area? So we decided to pursue that avenue based on an agreement with Chevron to cross their property, and if we could use the city right-of-way, utility right-of-way into the Air Force Base. So this is the last part of this project. We're trying to reduce our liability, environmental liability. The design has been completed, everything. This is the last part.
Thank you very much.
The
sir.
name, I don't,
Yes, sir?
did he say his name?
What was your name?
My name is John Sprinkle.
That's what we needed.
Yes, sir.
And
All
who do
right.
you represent?
I'm representing Defense Logistics Agency.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I just want to say, last time I think I was the only no vote. I had some concerns about impact on neighborhoods. I since got a lot of information around it, and I no longer have that objection anymore.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Do we have anybody from the public that wishes to speak on item number 60? This is a public hearing. Ms. Pointer, are you coming up? You are? Okay. We have one public speaker. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Stephanie Pointer. I support this project because it's going to move it into McDill's problem and the oil people's problem. And I know that Councilman Carlson asked last time about their public engagement, which is less than stellar. I think that the base could do a better job with communicating with the neighborhoods. And Mr. Rodriguez knows how I feel about that. But thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody registered? No? May I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Councilman Miranda, would you mind reading item number 60?
What about if I say yes?
You say yes? Then
I'm
you
just
read.
joking with you, sir. Item number 60, file number FA23/83748, orders being presented for second reading and adoption. An orders granting to the United States of America and it's assigned on behalf of the United States Air Force a non-exclusive franchise to use public streets, alleys, highways, waterways, bridges, easements, and other public right-of-ways as more particularly described in Exhibit A of the City of Tampa for the construction, maintenance, and operation of a petroleum product pipeline distribution system with all necessary appurtenances for the delivery of petroleum product to the City of Tampa with prescribing the terms and conditions under which non-exclusive rights, privileges, and franchises may be exercised, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously with Clendenin being absent.
All right. Yes, sir, Councilman.
Can I just make a point of order? For the community, there were a lot of comments today about certain proposals being on the agenda. I just want, now I'm talking about the overall agenda, not this item. But I want the public to know that the issue of the incidents that happened in Ybor, it was not on the agenda originally. It was a walk-on just for the administration to give us an update on it. But we do not and did not have on the agenda any specific proposals. I read in the media that certain council members may have certain proposals, but it was not on, there's no specific proposal on the agenda today. This will end up taking 2/3 of the day, and it needs to because of the importance of it. But I just wanted the public to know there's no specific proposal that's on the agenda today. We'll be discussing it later and discussing proposals, but there's nothing on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, item number 69, there's a request to continue this to January 25th, 2024.
So moved.
The petitioner is here. Is there anything you'd like to add, sir?
No, council, we just requested it be continued.
All right, and your name, sir?
Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner, Weekly Homes.
All right, is there anybody here that is going to speak just on the continuance? Is there anybody registered? May I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Motion to continue from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira for January 25th, 2024, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602. At 10 a.m., sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you, council.
Thank you very much. Before we go to lunch, let's do the consent agenda, except the items that were pulled. So Councilmember Vieira, items 8 through 16, if you would mind moving them.
Yes, sir. Hereby move items 8 through 16.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilwoman Henderson, you have
Yes.
17 and 18?
Yes, I move items 17 and 18 for Parks and Rec.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is Councilwoman Hurtak, 19 through 29, with the exception of 26.
Yes, I move items 19 through 25 and
Second.
27 through 29.
We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilmember Miranda, items 31 through 33.
Item 31 through 34, sir.
No, 33. I'm sorry, 32.
Got it.
Items 31 and 32, sir?
Got it.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilwoman Henderson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next up, Councilmember Carlson. Let me make sure that we didn't pull anything. 35 through 55. I think you're good to go, sir.
I move 35 through 55.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Carlson, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is Transportation Committee. That would be the Vice Chair, Councilwoman Henderson.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I move item 56, 57, and 58.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. All right.
Chairman, move for the 59th, the review hearing to be scheduled December 21st, 2023 at 10 a.m.
Excuse me, we had an email from Carol Bennett. If you could please schedule it for January 25th, 2024.
January 25th.
All right, this is item number 59. Councilmember Miranda is scheduling it for January 25th, 2023.
24.
Oh,
Already done that one.
24.
2024. Where has the time gone?
We've done that date.
All right, Councilmember Miranda with the motion. We have a second from? Vieira. Councilmember Vieira with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's it for now. We are in recess until, is 2 o'clock okay?
Yeah.
We are in recess until 2.